Welcome, everyone, to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Charter Township of Washington Board of Trustees. Today is April 20, 2022. If you'll please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Olson.
Here.
Tatowski.
Here.
Babinski's here. Praviti.
Here.
Nicely.
Here.
Polad. Here. And Kopp.
Here. All present. Next, you see before you is the agenda. If there's any additions, deletions, or motions.
I do have one thing that I want to change on the draft minutes.
Well, that'll be under consent agenda.
Yes, under consent agenda. We have,
I know, right now we're doing the agenda.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm ahead of
It's
you.
okay, you're ahead. Item 9.3, we'd like to move it to the end of the meeting. And then, we did get the limestone, correct?
No,
We did it?
we're going to remove the limestone because we
Okay.
did not get the
And then,
pricing.
Okay, yeah, we didn't get the pricing, so we'll remove 9.1 and move 9.3 to the end. And if there's no other questions, I'll make the motion. Once a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Praviti, seconded by Nicely. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Next is a consent agenda. You're being asked to approve the accounts payable of April 15, 2022, approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting April 6, 2022, accept the Washington Township Fire Department report for March of 2022, approve Parks and Rec accounts payable of April 8th and April 15th, and approve the closed session minutes of April 6, 2022. I guess you had a correction.
Yep, so I have a correction on the draft minutes. Under moved items, under the Parks and Recreation, second motion was made by Praviti, not Olson. It was seconded by Nicely, not Tatowski. All other parts of that are correct.
I just have a question on accounts payable. We had a brief discussion before about approving the accounts payable, and there's no sense in approving them if the checks are issued already. Are we considering to make a change that checks be issued after approval or not?
I thought there was also a discussion that there was something that was going to be discussed at the next Parks and Recreation meeting.
Are you asking about Parks and Rec or general accounts payable?
Well, it'll be for Parks and Rec too, because if it's on the agenda.
Bob, is it normal to issue the check run, or is it to hold on to the checks until the trustees approve?
I don't look at the check runs for any of my clients, so I'm not sure what the process is.
Okay.
Well, I agree with Mike. It only seems right that we should approve it before we pay it,
I agree.
in all cases.
I agree.
Now we talked about this afternoon. Here's the problem. June, we have 2 meetings. July, we have 1. If a July payment needs to be paid after the meeting, they're not going to pay it until July 13th. And then it's got to get approved and go in the mail. So they're waiting over 30, almost 40 days to get paid. Same with the other meetings that we only have once in a month.
Well, like I stated, before, anything that needs to be paid or has a due date could be paid. And then that would be brought up later at the meeting, and then others like be held up. Normally, there's going to be 2 meetings a month, so there's always going to be an exception. So anything has a due date or else a penalty should be paid right away. So that should not
Can
be
you
an
do that?
issue.
I don't know. It's up to you.
Again, I would like
You can
the
do it.
trustees, if they want to, come and visit and see what goes on at the accounting department, because I don't see how it's capable for us to do what's being asked. It's not, this has been something that's been going on for years. We've never had anything different. We do our checks and balances on everything that's going on in there. So to have them hold and put off things, you're just creating more work for them to try to get everything done. So if you'd like to come in and see the process, to understand what you're trying to suggest doing, how that would complicate things, I would invite that first.
I understand what you're saying. I worked in 2 communities in which that was not an issue.
Mike, just to let you know, and Stan and the rest of the board know, I've asked for this to be put on as an agenda item for the next Parks and Rec meeting where we approve the accounts payable before it comes to the board. So we'll have the discussion there. I think that's maybe the right approach.
You know, I think what he is saying is also here. We don't have that commission other than myself and accounting.
I understand that.
Overseeing things.
You know, we ran into the same issue at the library, and some of the items, we just said, you know what, we got a gas bill, we got an electric bill, we got certain things that just have to get paid, and we just did a blanket motion to those few things just haven't paid automatically. But everything else, the bill run comes to the board first, then it's approved, and then it's sent to you, and checks are signed, sent to the vendors. So that's on the agenda for next Thursday.
Then we should put something on the agenda for the following board meeting then to review your process?
If we come up with one,
There you go.
In the interim, if you guys could please stop by to see what has to happen in there,
Sure.
just so you have an understanding of what it will cause for us internally as they're trying to separate and do our bill runs.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
2 at a time.
I'll
well,
run
then
Yeah, no, that's
there-
right.
there's another part of the discussion then that we had talked with Plant Moran about the commission signing the checks instead of the board because we know what's happening. So that's another part of the equation. We'll explore opportunities and see what happens.
And for me, I'd love that, and I'm sure.
I'm sure you would, Stan. And I'm sure Lisa would too.
Back to the approval of the agenda on page 5 of 7. We've got motion initiated by Praviti, seconded by Nicely, to approve a 3% pay raise for the fiscal year. It says yes, Nicely, yes, Babinski, yes, Praviti, no, Kopp, Dikowski, Olson, and Pollard, and you've got abstain none and motion carried.
Where are we at?
That
What'd you
should
say?
be motion
Minutes.
denied.
Which one was that? I'm having a hard, these speakers are either low or I'm just having a hard time hearing.
Page 5 of 7 for the meeting minutes.
Okay?
It's under section 10.5, the last one down just above 10.6.
Yep.
So it should be motion failed.
Right, correct.
Noted, we'll change those draft minutes to reflect that.
And what was the other one that you had there, Stan?
The one I had was on, one second, page 2. Oops, page 2 is 6.1, but it carries over to page 3. The second motion there, that was a motion by Praviti and Nicely, not Olson and Dikowski. All the other components of that were correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the noted changes.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Praviti, seconded by Babinski. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. We have no moved agenda items. Next is comments from the audience on non-agenda items. If there's anything not on the agenda you'd like to talk about, you can feel free to come up. Please try to keep to the 3 minutes. State your name and address.
My name is Shirley Bergman. I live at 11788 31 Mile Road on the south side. I have last week's The Record newspaper, and I'll read this short paragraph from the article entitled, water main receives design refinements. Page 2. Houses with dense landscaping and stormwater issues on the north side between Sisson Street and Van Dyke had the project moved to the south side instead. So houses had the project moved to the south side? I have to get my information from the local newspaper because you don't communicate with the people the water main will affect. I received one communication from you last year, and I had to fish it out of the drainage ditch in front of my house with a rake, soaking wet because no one wants to write the communication, no one wants to put that communication in an envelope, and no one that sits on this board wants to address and stamp that communication. There are 17 houses on this block, 17 stamps. And then we have stormwater issues mentioned in the paragraph I read. In my 11 years living on 31 Mile, I have never heard any stormwater issues, not even 3 years ago when the drainage ditch needed to be dredged by Macomb County. Did anyone say, prove it? There's been some arm twisting and whatever else going on behind closed doors for the newspaper article to say the houses had the project moved to the south side. And so the lack of leadership in this township, the power struggles on the board, whatever is going on behind closed doors, and the lack of stamps will pit one neighbor against another on 31 Mile between Van Dyke and Sisson. No one on 31 wants this project. No one. You want support? You don't have it. Find another route for your water main. No one wants it except you. And I'd like to thank Stacy Sabatka and the Record for covering this story.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And any other comments, non-agenda items? Okay, next is legal counsel. Bob?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Next is unfinished business. 9.1 has been removed. We'll put that on the next meeting. We didn't get the pricing in time. Next is 9.2, the cost share agreement for Hidden Valley subdivision. And I guess Mike can kind of explain. This is an update for the cost share agreement we have with the county on that. Get that out.
Correct. So the board approved the SAD project to participate in the county's 50/50 program back in September. I believe resolution number 3 was passed at that time. This is the document that allows the money to flow from the township to the county. The county is going to be the administrator of the contract. They go out and hire the contractors to actually do the work. This agreement is same thing we do for all the road projects that you participate with the county. Again, this agreement allows money to flow from the township to the county. The county's contribution to the project, as indicated in the agreement, is maxed out at $500,000 as a part of that 50/50 program, simply due to the high demand for that program. But again, this just is our standard agreement that spells out exactly how that money is going to flow. The township is made whole by the SAD that you previously approved, and the amount that's indicated in here that the township and therefore the residents are responsible for is less than the amount that was approved as a part of the petition and the SAD process back last year.
Mike, so the 500,000 that the county is paying is more than the 50% that the residents?
It's less than.
So the residents are paying more?
They're not paying any more than originally was agreed to last year.
Okay.
Nothing's changed in that matter.
Okay, I'm just looking for some
Yeah.
semantics on the 50/50.
It's 50/50 up to $500,000 from the county.
Okay,
And again, that is simply because I think that program that they have is funded with a total of only $2 million. So they want to spread it out to at least 4 projects. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
okay. So what are the residents going to pay?
Their amount is as a part of this agreement, is indicated as 849,208. 208. But the SAD was approved with a value of 912 and some change. I don't want to give you
It's
the-
actually reduced.
Yeah,
portion.
so it's gone down a little bit, but again, that 800 doesn't include the township's administration fees that are a part of the SAD, which are all spelled out very clearly in the petition.
Okay.
This is just for the actual construction project
Gotcha.
and the county's administration.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Questions? Any questions from the audience? Can you come to the board? I mean,
Gotta come up to
can you come up to the podium? Sorry.
Bob,
We
you wanna
said
talk
it
about
at the
when we
last.
spread it?
Yeah, once the cost-sharing agreement is signed with the county, the township will write a check to the county. The road will be built. We'll then know what the actual costs are. At that point, we only took it up to Resolution 3, because you remember, this SAD was contingent upon the county putting up the
Approving it.
500,000. And if they didn't put up the 500,000, then we would rescind the project. And now that they've come through with the 500,000 and they're going to bid it out and build it, once we know the real number, that number, the 849
yeah.
and whatever the administrative costs are, we will then hold a public hearing on the approval of the roll. The roll will be prepared by the township assessor. And, the township assessor will prepare a detailed spreadsheet like you've seen before, which each of the parcels will have their assessment on it. In theory, if all the parcels were the exact same size, they would get the same assessment. That doesn't always work out that way, as we saw in some prior projects. So the assessor will prepare a roll. There will be a public hearing. There will be a notice sent out to all the residents. You'll have the public hearing. They'll have an opportunity to come in, object potentially to their assessment. The board will approve the roll. And then at Resolution 5, then you'll decide when the spread of the roll will begin, whether it's in December of this year or whether you want to do it, I don't know, June or July of next year. But that'll be up to the board. And then you'll also pick the term. So we don't know that number yet.
This project will be bid out, or actually it is out for bids currently. So they'll be awarding this contract, I believe, next month in May. So this number, again, that's in the cost share agreement uses an estimate. There's clear language in here that the township's responsible for whatever the actual construction cost is, just as we've done for all the other projects. But we'll have a much better idea within 30 days of what the real construction number is compared to the estimate that's contained in here. But again, we're always governed up against, as Bob said and I said earlier, that original SAD approval number. If we go above that, 10% above that, we got to come back and decide, the residents again get another shot at it to see if they want to still move forward.
There's a provision in Act 188 which indicates that if the actual construction costs exceed the estimate by 10%, then we would have to come back and hold another hearing on necessity. But from the looks of the numbers here, that's not going to happen. So we're well within the 10%.
Is this possibly going to happen this year yet?
It will happen this year.
Good.
Any other questions or?
I don't have any. I was going to make the motion, but.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So I'm going to make the motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the cost share agreement for the Hidden Valley Paving Assessment District approved by the board in resolution number 3, adopted on September 8, 2021.
Support.
Who said that?
Polat.
Mike,
Thank
go
Polat.
ahead.
So motion by Babinski, seconded by Polat. If no questions, roll call.
Babinski is yes. Polad?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Zatowski?
Yes.
Rivedi?
Yes.
Nicely? Yes.
And Cobb?
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you, Mike. Next item, we're going to jump to new business now, 10.1, public hearing of Star Transportation budget. Do I make a motion to formally? Yeah. I make a motion to formally open up public hearing of the Star budget at 6:51 PM.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded by Olson. Roll call. Oh, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. I don't know if Clara needs to come up or not. If you have any questions, or we have questions. So,
Hi.
Hi.
Sarah Russell, the Star Transportation Director. Did you want me to, I'll give a little bit of summary about Star.
Okay.
It's our free transportation system for 60-plus and adult disabled members of our community. We travel within the 72 square miles and outside for medical. The number one reason Star is so important to our community is because it allows independence for all of the people that use it. And it's so important to keep your independence as you get older or have difficulties. The people that use Star, our users, develop a trust with our drivers, and there's a camaraderie that is inexplicable and, well, that didn't come out right, but inexplicable, you know what I mean.
Yep, got it.
It is, they really know each other and they trust each other, and it is actually an activity, sometimes just having Star pick them up. There is a 48-hour reservation window. Anybody who is 60-plus or has a permanent disability, an adult who does, can call us within 48 hours. We will reserve a spot for you. We do fit people in after the 48 hours, or if it's a last-minute thing, but we do like some advance notice. We have some new software where we see at minute to minute where all of our drivers are, where everybody is at. So our scheduling has become easier now that we've learned all the software. But we average normally about 240,000 miles that we travel prior to COVID. Right now, we're building back up to that. We're at about 170,000 miles, and we have about 16,000 rides that we gave in 2021. Our revenue comes from millage funds. It's 0.25. Our millage was just renewed last year. And the other 21% comes from smart transportation through different grants and community credits and municipal credits. And the townships approve that this money gets put into Star so that we can provide this service. As far as staff expenses and benefits and the cost to actually have employees for full-time and part-time, because Star is completely just a service organization, the cost for that is about 66% of the budget, 15% of that administrative, and 50% of that would be our part-time drivers and our dispatch. Our vehicles in operation are about 22% of our expense budget, about $150,000 a year. That's for vehicle training, and just to keep the operation going. Our improvements this year, last year, now it's moved into this year. We are going to redo the parking lot where Star is housed, which is at the Romeo Community Center, and that is expected to be 12% of the expenses for this year. So that is about it, unless you have questions.
I just have a couple comments. I'm impressed with the budget, the way it's presented to us. And then I use Star. I had knee replacements, and the service was really good. I called ahead, and they were always there. They were on time, courteous. And the only question I have is under capital improvements. And under building, is that where you were referring to as far as the parking lots?
Yes.
Okay.
Star is going to cover the cost of that maintenance expense this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Yeah, you can come speak.
Most of this is in regard to the STAR, but it also lumps into Parks and Rec because both of the budgets were not approved. This has been an extreme left turn for the Romeo Washington and Bruce Parks and Rec. I hear it often as a volunteer throughout the Romeo Washington Bruce community. Your own township attorney, Bob Siebert, referenced to your actions at the last township meeting. This is a quote from the Record newspaper, dated April 13th through the 19th. Headline, stalemate over Romeo Washington, Bruce Parks and Rec. Despite promises to move forward, things were at a standstill once again. Budget items mentioned at the last Parks and Rec Commission meeting on March the 31st were placed on the agenda, but were not resolved. Attorney Bob Siebert warned the board that they were violating the Charter Township Act by just extending the budget instead of approving it outright. I don't have any idea what you're doing. You're in a spot where you're either going to approve it or defund it, he said. I've never had a situation in this township where all the budgets were not approved at the end of the fiscal year. On February 14th, the budget was presented to the board, but they voted to have it removed from the agenda. It makes me wonder what advice you take seriously. So far, you appear to march to the tune of your own personal drummer at the expense and the frustration of your own constituents and community members. You dissect the Parks and Rec budget, and you are aiming for performance reviews and merit pay raises for its employees. You seem to think Parks and Rec is a big business. It's not. It's an extremely well-run, appreciated service to the community. No other department budget is dissected like this. Lots of dollars have been wasted on attorneys' fees, and thus far, you are right back to square one with two trustees meeting in an advisory role to attempt to hammer out a resolution. 5 naysayers have treated the STAR budget in a like fashion to the Parks and Rec budget. I never heard you ask for a legal opinion from the township attorney. You continue to verbalize that you are moving forward, but you do not specify if that is in a tri-community fashion. You talk about erecting buildings, gyms, and a swimming pool in Washington Township. To me, that is a duplication of services when Romeo Community Schools is a good sharing partner. Again, I hope that you'll rethink this whole issue, interview and appoint a board, and let them draw up the bylaws. That would legitimately take the politics out of it for good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or no? Do you, by approving this budget, this includes that 3% raise as well?
I know, I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Well, no, that's why I'm just asking.
It is
Sure,
in there,
okay.
yes. And I should just say, and I think we need to reconsider the July date for the Parks and Recreation budget and possibly relook at the 2022-23 budget, because it is very hard when you are an employee of Parks and Recreation and you don't feel the support from, that's what it feels like to the employees. So,
No, I agree. Any other questions from the board? And I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Support.
Supported by Dukowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Oh, sorry, 701.
Thank you.
Any board discussion on this or motion or? Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the STAR budget for the year 22-23.
Support.
Motion by Praviti, seconded by Paulette. If no questions, roll call.
Praviti,
Yes.
Olad,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Nicely.
Yes.
I said Praviti, Babinski is a
You get to
yes.
vote twice.
You get to vote twice, no.
Yes.
Tatowski and Olson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Next item is 10.2, resolution approving the ballot proposition for the ambulance and advanced life support.
So
And,
again, this will go
to the-
on the ballot for November. We have to get the board approval in order to.
This
put
isn't
the-
going August?
This will, August, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
did I
yeah.
say November?
August.
August, yes, August ballot, so we can continue to supply the quality services that our ALS does for our township. So before you is all the language that I had spoken to council with, and then consulted with our assessing department for the amount of what the first year levied taxes would equal.
I have a question. On the ambulance and advanced life support, the text of the proposal says nothing about 2 mills. It just does say some not to exceed $2 for each $1,000 of taxable value. But if you go to the millage for the police protection, it says Michigan, Macomb County, Michigan be increased by 2 mills for each $1, $2 for each 1,000. So my question is the verbiage clear in terms of looking between the police and the ambulance? It says the same thing, but I'm just not sure the language is going to be clear to the public when they look at this. Is this a 2 mil increase, or is it not? Because for the ambulance, it doesn't say.
Plus, I have a question too on there. It says for a period of 5 years, commencing 2022 through 2026. To me, that would be 4 years.
No, it's 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. It's 5 years.
Yep, and there was,
Includes 27.
Includes 22. and
Okay, so you're including the actual year. Oh, okay.
I questioned that earlier too, because I would think it would be 4 years, because then we're going to have a special election expense. It'd be better to do it during a normal election, but I don't know. You said it's
again,
been almost 5 years.
that's what we've had for 5 years. Brian, do you have anything that you, as our chief?
I always,
In my mind.
yeah, I always thought it was a mid-year election, but maybe I'm
Right.
wrong.
I fail to really follow historically the rationale behind a lot of the millage renewals. Some were historically 3 and 5 and 10. I have really
Yeah,
nothing of
fire's
value
10.
to give to you folks, other than to potentially look at aligning those someday together, fire and ALS. And then, which election is really up to the clerk. I really fail to recognize, the differences, so.
Again, we've just been following what has been going on, and that's what's, the pattern was a 5-year and a 4-year.
Would this generate itself to become a special election if it's 5 years? And we're going to pay for that.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's an extra expense. It's not.
I agree. Why wouldn't we make it 4 years?
I thought it was always a
We can amend
Midterm, I
and
guess you would
change
say
and do
election.
whatever
Yeah.
at this point, correct, Bob?
Yeah, I had originally drafted this as a 4-year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And standard indicated that prior for this particular service was a 5-year. I didn't understand the rationale for the 5 typically, not that you have to, but boards have typically done it in 4-year chunks, which makes sense.
I mean, I
And
just.
I
feel
I
like
don't know
it's
the
more work
origin
on
for
you
the
to-
5 years.
Well, we don't want to do a special election, we don't have to. Like I said, I'm just following what we have done in the past, and had a 5-year for this one. There's a 10-year for the ambulance, the fire
Yeah.
department. So why is that one a 10-year?
But I'm saying 10-year falls on a
would
mid-year
fall,
or
yeah.
normal election, one of the other.
I think it should be amended to a 4-year. Does this get head lead too?
Yes, that's one of the
Okay,
reasons
so you're
why
actually an advantage of doing it in 4 years then and rolling it up to the,
Yeah.
so I would say let's go with the 4-year. That'd be my recommendation.
And I agree too. Should be 4.
And I would also like you to put in the words in there about the 2 mills also. So if you can just duplicate the
Right.
language between.
What I will do is I will make the ambulance, you can still approve the resolution subject to, and I will make the ambulance and advanced life support 4 years, so it'll be 20 through I'm sorry, 2022 to 2025, and I'll reference the 2 mil. You know, the last section of the millage proposal indicates it is a
Would be in the
renewal of a
26
previously
election.
authorized, but to make it clear, I'll add the 2 mil language.
Yeah, sounds good.
So with those changes, I make a motion to approve the resolution as stated.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Pollad, seconded by Olson. Sorry, any questions from the audience? Any other questions? Otherwise, roll call.
Pollad,
Yes?
Olson,
Yes.
Tatowski,
Yes.
Babinski is a yes, Previti,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
and Nicely.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Next item is a similar thing. It's a resolution to approve the ballot proposition for the police protection. And I believe this is a 4-year.
That one is a
2 mil.
4-year, as has been in the past.
I have a question like on this one, like in the middle of the millage proposal, it states Michigan be, that it will be increased by 2 mils, or in the bottom portion, it says it's a renewal.
The reason that that language is there is because there is a constitutional limitation on the amount of mills that you can levy in a town, in a county. Each township has a maximum amount it can levy. And the only way that you can go above that levy is to put the language in. We're saying whether the constitutional limitation can be increased. This language is identical to the language in every other ballot proposal for police that it's been approved. And again, the third paragraph indicates this is a renewal of a previously authorized millage. But that language about whether or not the constitutional limitation can be increased is what this is about. There's a constitutional limit, which I'm not going to bore you with, but only the voters can push it above the constitutional max that's set out in the Michigan Constitution. And so that language where you're asking the voters, do you agree to put us over that limit by 2 mils? And then you indicate to the voters that this is a renewal of an existing millage.
Yeah, does it have something to do that the one's expiring too, so you're basically at 0?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you're going
so
up
this-
by 2.
Again, this
So it's-
language is the same language that we have used since the day
Yep.
that you got police protection. So,
I'll make a motion then to accept the renewal of the millage police protection to be put on the August ballot.
Support.
Okay, motion by Babinski, seconded by Cop. Any questions from the audience? Roll call.
Babinski is a yes, Cop.
Yes.
Pollad,
Yes?
Nicely,
Yes.
Previti,
Yes.
Towski,
Yes.
and Olson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Okay, next item is item 10.4, discussion regarding the purchase, vehicle purchases for the township. And I'll let Stan, I guess, go into more detail. As everyone knows, it's been a problem trying to purchase vehicles, the shortages and stuff, but I'll let
Yeah.
you want to explain, I guess.
So again, we have a policy in which we go out to bid. Because of the chip shortage and everything else that there's shortage in this world, we've had vehicles, some have been ordered as long as September of 2020 that we still have not been able to obtain. We've had subsequent other ones ordered. We have, other than the verification that it's been ordered, nothing there. Trustee Kopp, Rich Emerito, our director, who else was with us? Dave
Dave.
Ossigi from the building department.
Schmelzer.
Yeah, and Fire Chief, Assistant Fire Chief Rob Schmelzer went out and met with a Ford dealer to see what is going on out there. They have offered $500 over their sticker price, which again goes against what we're hearing, and we're supposed to go out to bid. So I'm having conversation with you and want to have conversation as to which way does this board want to direct purchasing to go in order to get vehicles. Some of the vehicles we can't even still get, such as Rich is needing a Transit. They're not available to get right now. Some of, I think it was the Super Duty.
Super Duties.
are not available to get right now. They're not taking orders, there's nothing you can do about it. So again, after we had met and talked and done everything, I went to the other 3 dealers to let them know, this is something we're considering. I still have not had all of them respond back to me as to what kind of vehicles and where we could go. I can tell you that at this moment, which was a week ago, I was told by the Ram Chrysler dealership that they could get us a police responder, is what the fire department needs. What that is a special vehicle that has some plating and stuff, so when they go off-road and they got all their lights and things that they need for protection. They said as right now, we could get one. All these trucks, with the exception of the Transit, which we might be able to get one, but not exactly what Rich originally wanted, are going to have to be ordered. And it's going to be anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks once we get them. So I don't know which way the board wants purchasing to proceed forward. We're not getting what we asked for in the policy. Should we go out locally, is why we went to the Ford dealer here, we went to the Chevy dealer, the GMC dealer, and the Chrysler dealer, is to try to maybe keep some local business. And again, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking from what the pricing was, what we were told, what is now, is anywhere $10,000 to $15,000 more than what we were quoted. And typically, they're about $3,000 less. So prices have gone up significantly. Some of them are urgents. Assistant Chief with that is more urgent. His truck is a bit older. We need to get some replacement there. So I'm just opening it up to get some direction as to how this board's do. We have the abilities, if we want to, call this a state of, not a state of emergency, but do an emergency act. And we just go out and go deal with one dealership. If we want to go with the Chevy dealer or the Ford dealer, we just say, here's what we want, here's where we're going, and we order them. And we're going to have to pay the price of what we have. I don't feel comfortable making that decision. I don't have the power to make that decision to do that. So that's why I'm bringing it to the board.
Do we have a list of vehicles who are priority of 1, 2, and 3, like you said, the chiefs?
His has been out there since 2020.
Right.
Rich, two of them, transit van and
In several
a
months.
F-250, and then he wants another 150, right? And then Dave is requesting a 150 for the building department. So we got a total of 5 vehicles, I think that was.
That includes that cargo van thing?
Yeah, that's the transit.
Transit, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed if we shop it out to the dealerships that are located in Washington Township, I mean, with the same specs. I mean, that would be my,
And again, that's sort of what I've done so far,
Yeah, yeah,
just to get a feel for what, but I'm not getting the reports back, but I'll
Yeah.
put more pressure on them. If the board directs me to go that route
Yeah.
and give them a cutoff date, that we need to know this is what we're doing and where we're going. I can tell you the Ford dealer said that he placed some orders already, because he said, I'm gonna sell them no matter if you guys take them or someone else takes them, so no sweat off his back on that.
I think one of the things that we need to consider, and I wear my Ford logo on my sleeve, so I'm sure everybody knows that already, but in any event, talking with Rich, I think he probably feels the same way as I do, that in order to keep the complexity down within the department, usually you want to try to keep all the vehicles the same manufacturer, because if you go with Ford, you go with Chrysler, you go with GM, you've got various different parts that are on the bench. We've got 3 different manufacturers, 3 different parts, so it makes it a little more complicated. So if Ford is willing to come to the party, and it sounds like, you know, the Transit's off the table and the Super Duties are off the table, so it sounds like you're going to get maybe 2 trucks.
If we strictly go with Ford.
Right.
Again, I'm
right.
being told, as of a week ago, the police responder, it seems as though right now they can get one of those. How long? For 12 to 16 weeks, but they still have an open order for those.
Is that an SUV or is that a car?
That is a truck.
It is?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. I wasn't aware they made one, but good, okay.
So the recommendation to the board is to allow the purchasing agent to order vehicles under the emergency provision of the purchasing policy. It doesn't state what type or how many vehicles, and if we were to allow this, I would think we would want to include that verbiage in here.
And I'm perfectly fine with adding whatever we need. Again, I wanted to have conversation to figure out what directive we need to get some of these vehicles.
Okay.
Come with the podium.
Yep, sorry.
Don DeVancher, these vehicles, what's the difference? We're not going to keep a stockpile of parts on the shelf.
Just
You know
oil
what I'm saying?
filters, oil, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, oil filters, you go to any one of the, how many auto parts stores we got?
Yeah, fine.
We got a few.
Too many. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, what's the difference?
No,
Just a point.
Just for information, normally you go through the county or else the state for bids.
So, yep, that goes through Mitten, now called BidNet. We've done that.
Okay, so.
Since September of 2020, we have not received our emergency vehicle responder. And every subsequent one that we put out there, nothing has been done. And when we talk to the Ford dealer, he confirms, some of these things aren't being made right now, so you're not going to get them.
And just for some clarification on that, the way the mitten thing worked is these vehicles were bid out as a fleet purchase.
Yep.
And those get pushed to the back burner when things like this happen. What we're proposing here, and I think what Stan is alluding to, is these are purchases that would happen if you were a regular customer that would come in. So they get top priority in terms of floating to the top. If it's a fleet bid, again, it's going to sink back down to the bottom, and you're still going to wind up with no vehicles. So it's fleet versus a regular purchase.
Again, it's a matter of, do we want to go with 4 different manufacturers? Do we just want to say, get the truck, whoever can get it to us first? I don't know which way you want to go.
Seems to me like we should get what we can get,
What we can
right?
get.
Take what we
That's
can
what I
get.
think, yeah.
So again, one of the vehicles will not be a Ford vehicle.
If that's
From
okay
what
with
we're
the person
seeing at
that's
this
ordering
point.
it.
I'd say,
is that the one, or is that
Is
that the one?
vehicle one?
That is the police responder
Yeah.
appears right now to be a Ram.
That one, yeah, like she said, we have no choice, I feel like.
Yeah.
I agree. What about the van?
So right now, Ford, oops,
That one I think you prefer.
we have, he's got one ordered, not exactly what we're wanting, but Rich said he's willing to accept that one. It's actually a little heavier duty,
Oh.
but not as tall a van, but in his agreement that it would still work for the purposes what we have. It's just going to be a little bit heavier duty. It's a 3,500 instead of a 2,500.
Gotcha.
Budget-wise, we're okay?
Again, we based everything, I think, on the budget based on the dollars that we had been told
These were bought on
previously
last
to
year's
be.
budget, not even this year's
Yeah.
budget, yeah.
So
Right.
you got to figure $10,000-$15,000 different in each vehicle.
I mean, for those 2 trucks, I I think our hands are handcuffed, we should buy them, but for the pickups, I still think we shouldn't.
Well, if we
Get
wait
bids
for
for the
Mitten,
budget.
though, I mean, I'm,
No, I meant for the 3 or 4
Oh, okay.
dealerships here in Washington. And then the next meeting, that's my recommendation.
yeah, again,
But the emergency.
I'm fine with
vehicle and
bringing
the
everything back
transit
to
van.
what is being proposed. I just want to
Yeah.
be directed and not going off on my own and everyone saying, well, who told you you could do that?
Hey,
Give me a
Stan,
direction.
Stan, isn't,
Oh, sorry, it sounded like coming over there. I'm like,
Where's his
pretty
voice?
good, eh?
you're throwing your voice to
Pretty
this
good.
gentleman over here. His mouth's
Try
not
that
moving.
again.
There you
The
go.
the F-250 is available, right?
Not available. I mean, he has it ordered.
It'll still be 12
It's
week
already,
order.
it's already on order is what
It's on order, correct. So a week has elapsed, so it could be 11 to 14 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
It's not here being delivered next week or whatever. It's when he placed an order and said, I don't care if you guys buy it or not, I'm going to sell it.
So that's the F-350.
No,
Oh, that was that.
there's a 250.
That's the 250, Dan. That's the 250. That one's available, and what other one was available now?
The police responder.
The emergency, when I last spoke to them, he said he can get some. He doesn't have it sitting on his lot, but they can order.
And what's that called, though?
It's a police responder vehicle, emergency vehicle. And that'd be Chrysler Ram,
For the fire marshal.
correct. That one I would say is probably the most urgent one that we need to act on. And again, I didn't have everyone's pricing, so I didn't want to come here and say, well, here's this one, he's got one, here's the one, didn't tell us anything. So I'll put together a sheet and let you know where everything is as far as pricing by each dealership, if they respond or don't respond.
Well,
But I'd like to keep it local if we can, you know.
Well, I'm willing to make a motion to allow purchasing agent to order the F-250 and the police responder vehicle right away. Do a search on the other three within the local dealerships, and that's my motion.
Do you?
We have to put in a dollar
we-
amount on that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Do you want to put a dollar amount, or are you just giving us,
Well,
get it, we
on the
see that's
two,
available, that's what they
we have-
need?
We
Whatever
have
the
budget,
best
we know
price
we're
you
going to
get,
go over,
whatever
so
the
I
best
think we
price
have
you
to
get.
make a budget amendment there,
Right.
because they're already in the budget.
So the transit van and the two other F-150s would be, do a,
What Sam said, best available price.
Yeah, but yeah, you can't put a price on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to put a deadline either May 11 or May 18,
And then those three will come back
or whenever you can get it, I
to the
guess.
Yeah.
next board meeting.
yes, hopefully they respond to me, but I'll put a deadline in for 2 weeks from now. We don't have another meeting for 3 weeks, so that should be enough to put everything together.
Sorry,
that's
any
my motion.
questions from the audience? Sorry.
Well, we got to have a second before.
No, yes, sir.
Sorry.
I
I'll
thought there
second.
was.
Now I have a
Here you
second.
go.
Okay, motion by Dukowski, seconded by Olson. And any other questions from the board or audience? Otherwise, roll call.
Datowski,
Yes?
Olson,
Yes,
Cop,
Yes.
Polad,
Yes,
Nicely,
Yes.
Praviti,
Yes.
Babinski's a yes.
Okay, motion passed. Okay, thank you. Next item is proposed election inspector wage increases.
So you got in your board packet two, one current wage scale, one proposed wage scale. The difference between the two is I'd like to add what they call an EPB inspector. It's the electronic poll book inspector. Not everyone has the capabilities or feels comfortable in that position, working on a computer. So there's nothing on there that they can damage or break or whatever. It can be all fixed at the time of the occurrence of any mistakes that happen. But we're suggesting, because other communities do have that, in making that a special role and maybe enticing others to want to maybe take that role versus a regular precinct inspector. It's only $20 more, but it's something there. And the other difference is adding a training allowance for when they have to come to training for each election to make sure they're up to date with what's going on and where we're at. Right now, we don't have that. So they're coming in, basically spending the entire day that they spend on election day and the hour to hour and a half here with no wage. So we'd just like to propose those two changes.
I think it looks reasonable.
How does this compare to what the other areas are doing, Stan, do you know?
Yeah, well, that's what we went and looked through. Again, it's hard to get an exact pinpoint on everyone because everyone's got a little bit different size. A lot of them do have the poll book inspector. Some are 220, some are 240, 180. We tried to range more in the middle of everything that's there. And the same thing goes with the training. You know, some do it, some have higher amounts, and it's just included in there. So it's really not easy to make a total comparison, because some wages are way higher, but that includes their training. Ours are like middle of the road and didn't include any training.
The only difference I see here is you have the EPB inspector, you've added that, and you've added training, but all the other rates are
Right.
the same.
And again, so it's not like a new person. There's the same amount of people there, but one of them will be specifically assigned to being the inspector. So it's a $20 pay raise for them.
Yeah.
That's it. And then, again, everyone who has to go to training and gets refreshed would get that $20 in their pay for coming to the training. Now, that's not always necessary. Like right now, we don't have everyone needing to come back. We like them to come back, just so they keep refreshed, because it's not something you do every day.
Right.
You
You do
know,
forget, for sure.
you forget little bits and pieces, and you don't want them all worried and scrambled and nervous about what's happening on the day of election, so.
This seems reasonable to me. I'll make a motion to approve.
Are any of them, before we do that, are any of them in danger exceeding, I think it's the $600 limit before they got to be a W-2 employee?
Yeah,
We have a
so,
motion on the table. We either have to second it.
I second it.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Mike. Are we in,
I was just wondering if any of them exceed the requirements for a 1099 versus a W-2.
yep, so we did look into that a little bit. There are provisions that they do not hit the full amount in which they would be taxed. So we did have some concerns from some of the workers about that, because, again, odd year, we have 4 elections going on this year versus 2. On the 2, no, they're not going to hit it, but now if they're doing 3 or 4, they could exceed that, but we feel comfortable that, yeah, they might get W-2'd, but they're not going to have a great tax burden on them from that, and we've been explaining that to them as well.
Well, that's a good point, but that's the way it worked at Shelby, too. They were not taxed.
Yep, and that's part of the state law, that we have that for election workers until you reach this certain threshold, but then there's still limitations on all of it as well, so.
Okay. There's a, motion by
Olson, seconded by?
Dukowski. Okay, sorry.
Public comment?
Any other comments from audience, or otherwise roll call?
Olson,
Yes.
Polad,
Yes?
Pop,
Yes.
Datowski,
Yes.
Graviti,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
and Babinski is a yes.
Motion passed. Next item, I'll call the chief up. That's for the purchase of a turnout gear for the Washington Fire Department. I guess I'll let you explain.
Good evening again.
Hello.
This should be a fairly simple request. In fact, when I was pulling it off my desk tonight, I realized that the requested amount is between $5,000 and $10,000. And when you're talking about the purchasing policy, I didn't even need to come before you tonight. We could have gone before Finance or perhaps Fire Committee. But I think there's some value in this board, reading through this, if you will, understanding the historical and what we've been through to get to this point, the vendor, and the specification on our PPE. I say that because I'm fairly confident that I'll be back before you, hopefully in the near future, with another request for the same items for new hires if we can recruit into our part-time ranks, and also in anticipation of promoting perhaps into full-time vacancies. So I think there's a lot of value if you were to take some time to read through it. Long story short is a few years ago we went out to bid, a competitive bid on a specification for PPE, AKA turnout gear, fire suppression protection gear. Phoenix Outfitters was awarded the contract, and they developed our spec. So we're adhering to the spec. There are, I don't want to say single source vendor, but they're who we deal with. I'm looking to equip 2 of our full-time firefighters who have been on the job quite a while now. They're going to look like they're going to be successful through their probationary period. And in light of the lead time, to get this stuff in our hands, I'm before you tonight, open to order 2 sets. And, the other thing is we're trying to transition away from rental gear. We abide by pretty strict NFPA standards on our PPE and our suppression or structural firefighting gear. We don't stray from that, so sometimes when we have more folks than we do turnout gear on the shelf, we have to rent them from Phoenix. It's a great deal, but, it's a legacy cost thing that I'm just tired of. So I am before you asking for a really simple request to buy 2 sets of turnout gear. Before you is the amount, and the lead time's pretty long. It's about 6 months, if I remember correctly. I guess added, I can tell you that we've got 3 or 4 young men and women that are interested in part-time, so we're looking to recruit them aggressively, and we're keeping an eye on our full-time ranks. So we no longer have turnout gear on the shelf that is compliant, and I'm not really willing to hope that whoever may leave is the same size as someone we recruit. So I don't roll the dice like that anymore. And we've been really
Based on
successful
size.
over the years
Hiring
like that, believe it or
requirement.
not, right? So you're going to see this request more frequently, I bet.
Chief, 2 questions, or actually it's one question. Number one, I fully support this. Okay, let me say that right up front. Thing right here, it says net 20 payment terms. Is that ARO or after receipt of material?
That, I didn't pick up on, it's usually net 30, but it's after we get the material in hand.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. Historically, we've issued a PO to Phoenix. They don't require that, but, you know, the previous order was like 33 sets. It was a large sum of money, so they will order this on a verbal order by me tomorrow if the board so chooses to approve.
If you said there are going to be some down the road, are we better off ordering more than what you need over here because of the 6-month lead time? And do we know 6 months from now if that's going to turn to 6 months or 8 months lead time for the other ones that you may need?
Yeah, unfortunately, today's modern gear is just so, I don't want to say tailored, but I think that may be the right word, to the body size and type. So I can't do that until we get the candidate on the payroll and standing in front of this, our vendor that specifically measures the individual. You know, in terms of lead time, you know, I'm cringing as we're talking about vehicles. In fact, segue, maybe we should keep those vehicles on the spec for the state bid, because the longer we go, the more we're realizing that these lead times are stretching out. So they're saying 6 months here, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's longer on the turnout gear. So, yeah, unfortunately, we can't do a one-size-fits-all. It'd be great.
Is there, and again, I just want to add on to what Mike is there a life expectancy on the gears that we currently have that we monitor or wear, or something that occurs that you have to order new ones
Yeah,
for the
great
current
question.
employees?
Great question. We have really stringent maintenance protocol as well as inspection protocol. If I remember right, the shelf life's 10 years, regardless of what happens. But, you know, this stuff could be destroyed 1 month in if we get into a structure fire and it loses integrity, or we get a lining that burns or whatever. But the standard allows us to keep this for 10 years, as long as the maintenance and inspection stuff's copacetic and documented.
Do we have any close getting to 10 years that we should look at ordering?
No, not as we speak. We're
Okay.
sitting really well. The last order of 33 replaced a gear that was about 5 or 6 years old, if I remember right. So what that allowed us to do, Treasurer Nicely, is get a secondary set with the cancer presumption bill and all the stuff that's in our world. It's no longer appropriate for us to come back to our house filthy dirty, right, feeling really great, but we have to get rid of that stuff literally in the bay and clean it, which means we have to get ready for the next incident, and we pull one off the shelf. So the 5-year-old stuff that we replaced a year ago or a couple of years ago is a secondary set for every person. So we no longer have stuff on the shelf to issue to new hires.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion for 2 complete sets of Lion V-Force gear specifically matching the Washington Township Fire Department specifications of $3,095 each, with a total of $6,190.
I'll support.
Motion by Dukowski, seconded by Babinski. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the board? Otherwise, roll call.
Datowski,
Yes?
Babinski's a yes. Praviti,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
Polad,
Yes?
Kopp,
Yes.
and Olson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Next item is revision to our Washington Township Board of Trustee meeting schedule. So,
Yeah, so when we originally put this out, there was 2 schedules, and they were both in our board packet. Somehow, the second one ended up on our website. It's not the one that should have been there. And so this is the one that we should have had out there, with one exception. I'd like to change that on our schedule. I know Mr. Datowski had something that he pointed out to me prior to the meeting, but on our board schedule meeting, I would like to remove the May 4th date and replace that with May 11th. Again, due to the elections that's happening in May, we don't have, or never have had a board meeting right after an election. So I'd like to change that. And again, refreshing what had occurred, we had mentioned leaving it the way it was, and we can always add on those 4 months in which we only have 1 meeting. Dan, do you want to talk about
Yes,
those
I
other
do.
2? Okay.
Further, when you read down into the document, it's got the meeting schedule of other township boards or commissions. If you read Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals meetings will be held at the Washington Township Municipal Building. It says 7 PM. I'd like to see that updated to the current time of 6:30 PM.
Yep.
Parks and Recreation Committee, Washington Bruce Township Board. It says for meetings and time called the Parks and Recs, we have agreed upon 5 o'clock. Other than this next Thursday meeting, they will be at the Washington Township Municipal Building. Okay, and people just saw me checking my phone because I had texted the president of the Romeo District Library Board to ask him their time meeting, and that should be updated to 7 PM.
7 PM.
Yes. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to make a motion to approve the new schedule with all these changes.
I'll support.
I have one question. Stan, did you look at the dates, because you have 2 more elections coming in August and November?
Yep.
So
So those have been looked at. So again, it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday.
okay, just want to make sure
So
that.
August falls appropriately, November falls appropriately because November 1st is a Tuesday, so it's not until the 8th that we're having the election in November.
Okay.
Any questions from the audience?
Second.
I'll pull it. Or no, was it?
Yeah, I think you seconded, right?
No, he spoke.
Oh, he's,
Oh,
I don't remember.
I know.
I did.
Maybe
Maybe it was me.
Yes,
It was
that's
you,
you,
it was you,
yeah.
Babinski.
okay.
If you're-
Motion by Dudzinski, seconded by Babinski. Any questions? Otherwise, roll call.
Tatowski,
Yes.
Babinski is a yes. Cop,
Yes.
Polad,
Yes,
Olson,
Yes,
Reviti,
Yes.
Nicely.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next is the Great Lakes Water Authority Contract Amendment Number 5, item number 10.8. And I'll call my co-sec up for this. We've been meeting with the great GLWA on this.
Sure, so this is the 5th amendment to your original contract that was executed with GLWA, DWSD at the time, back in 2008. The contract was set up, I believe it was a 30-year contract, and it was set up with regularly scheduled reopenings, quote-unquote, to make modifications to your total flow requirements and demand requirements, which are kind of the things, mainly the demand items that determine your actual costs, revenue requirement that you pay every year to GLWA for water. We had a non-scheduled opener in 2015 or 16 when the tank was operational that allowed us to become a max day customer, basically taking our peak hour value and setting it equal to our max day, saved us nearly $1 million a year in that revenue requirement. Because you signed your original contract in 2008 and maybe another community signed theirs in 2010, everybody's reopener schedules were different. What GLWA has done over the past 4 years is basically align everybody so everyone is opening their contract the same year. And basically what that allows them to do is better mitigate the cost implications that arise when when a third of the communities all lower their demand values and save money, that cost gets spread out to everybody. If you do that every 3 years, every year after year, it's just this constant up and down of what their rates have to do. So they kind of took a couple-year process and lined everybody up, and this is the year that everyone's reopening. We were one of the first communities and meeting with them in March, and now it's before you in April. We were able to basically go through with them and look at all of our actual values for how much water was used on those max day and peak hours throughout the past 6 years. There were some higher values that we had to explain to them just based on operational issues, changes that were made to the way the tank operates, and have been implemented such after that has occurred. And essentially, we made a very, very slight increase to the max day value and therefore the peak hour value went from 5.4 to 5.42. And those are the values that will hold for the next 4 years. It results in a very slight, I think, $8,000 and some change total revenue requirement difference. But this should allow us to, as we evaluate later in the year with upcoming water rates, it allows you that same flexibility that the tank continues to save you that nearly $1 million a year, Rich and his team have done an amazing job operating the tank, and that was evident, in the values that we looked at over the past 4 years of its operation. So there were 2 minor contractual language changes that are in this amendment related to that reopener schedule that I just talked about. That's all spelled out in paragraph 5.07, I believe. And then paragraph 5.06 was simply deleted, which was a minimum take or pay provision that was in the original agreement that's no longer applicable, just the way GLWA does business. So, sorry for the long spiel, but if there's any questions, I can try to answer.
When do the rest of the communities have to have all this done by?
So these numbers that are in this contract will affect the rates that GLWA adopts next summer, because their rates take effect on July 1st. So they're spread out every month. Basically, they're running on kind of a staggered schedule where you negotiate with them 1 month, and you have about 2 months to get it executed by your board, and then their board actually approves it as well. So they just keep staggering those. So their board will be approving these amendments throughout the summer, all the way through the fall, because all 80-some communities are going through the same process.
This is pretty much a template minus the usage that each township or city would use, is that correct?
Yeah, those values are unique to you, and then those exhibits that are in there that are the actual physical layout of your township are obviously unique, and your 2-meter pits are obviously unique.
Mike, didn't you have to clarify some things with them as to where we're at and why we are with our numbers? I thought there was something said at our water and sewer meeting.
Yeah, so I briefly mentioned it, but basically, the way the contract is set up, as long as you do not exceed the values in your contract on GLWA's max day or peak hour, you do not violate your contract. But that doesn't mean you didn't go over those values on some other random day a week before or a week after, just because your demands were really high or you had an operational issue. So as a part of this process, and they will do this for all the communities, they go and look at every single peak day over the past 6 summers and evaluate whether or not you went over or under. Our values before the tank were in operation were completely null and void because we've totally changed the way we use water. But we did have some values, and some of them were very easily explained of, yeah, we used to have the tank start pumping out 15 minutes before the exclusionary period ended in the morning. And we found that that was just too close. We weren't getting underneath our peak in time. So we moved that up to a half hour. We show them that. We show that we never made an issue after that it solved it, and we're good to go. So it was a little bit of a collaborative effort with Rich's field guys to kind of explain a couple days. One of them was we found out there was logic in there that not all 4 pumps were turning on in the middle of the day. Well, that logic's been changed, and now they all come on, and we haven't had a problem since. So it took a little work, but it saved the potential for hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra revenue requirement because we could prove all that. We had good data, good SCADA information to be able to prove our case, and they agreed.
Is this something that I think at Highland Park, is it the one that hasn't paid their bills in a few years, has to also commit to?
They do not, they are not a model contract customer. So, and partly, I won't get into whether or not they should pay their bills or didn't pay their bills, but the way Highland Park gets water is very similar to the way the city of Detroit does and the city of Dearborn does. They have so many connections into the system that they're not master metered. You guys have 2 connections. So it's very simple how much water you use on a daily basis. It passes through 2 meters. Those other communities have tens of connections that come in, and the cost to master meter those is very, very expensive. It's very old infrastructure. So GLWA has worked really hard with those 3 communities over the past 5 years because the agreement that created GLWA required them to come up with a better way to assess how much water they're using by assigning demands to them. So they haven't got that perfect, but it's pretty close. And they did that by installing temporary meters and taking little districts and then extrapolating that over the whole community. That potentially is part of the reason why Highland Park has refused to pay, is they feel they're not being charged accurately. I won't argue that point. But they are not a model contract customer, no.
I notice there's not really any dollar amounts in here.
Correct. So those values are used they're inputted into the demand model, the rate charge methodology that GLWA has adopted, and those are what determine your revenue requirement. requirement. So each year, obviously, your demand to say, we want 5.42 million gallons per day maximum, the cost of that demand or that pull on the system is variable. It changes each year based on what it takes to get that water delivered to you. So there's some language, it's not in this amendment, but in the original contract that basically says, we're going to take these things, we're going to plug them into this box over here, and it's going to come up with what your revenue requirement is or your rate is. But these are the building blocks to actually get to that.
Let the board know where we stand. I think we were pretty even for the last few years, but again, as things are developing in water and again, rain and no rain,
Yeah,
all have a determining factor.
I'm hoping to be standing here in 4 more years saying, hey, we're amending this contract again. But at that time, I suspect we're going to have to tick up those values because it's just not sustainable to say that as a growing community, you're using that same amount of water. We've changed how we use it and when we use it, but you can't fight the fact that you just have more people that are using it. Now, people are using much more efficient appliances, so the increase that everyone expected from a population is not necessarily, it's not necessarily linear because every new house that goes in has just that much more efficient washer, dryer, dishwasher, shower heads, all those things. So we don't use nearly the water that we used to, but you're growing. You can't fight that.
I make a motion to approve the Great Lakes Water Authority Contract Amendment Number 5.
Support.
Okay, motion by Polat, seconded by Cap. Any questions from the audience? Otherwise, roll call.
Pollad,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Tatowski,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
Praviti,
Yes.
and Babinski is yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to stay up there, we're going to talk about West Road.
West Road's next.
Okay.
We put this on for discussion for the board. It's West Road, it's, well, as it says, the west side of Mound, that's the dirt road portion of West Road that goes into a dead end. But I guess if you want to kind of explain.
Yeah,
what
I'll give the
Water and Sewer
background I know,
Committee
and I'll let you take over. There have been multiple meetings. Residents on that stretch of road have come in to the township and requested an SAD or some form of funding to pave that road, take it from gravel to asphalt. So if you can picture that at Mound Road all the way to the back where it ties into Lockwood, and then there's actually a small piece of west that veers off southwest towards the park. That's actually, again, a public road. And then there's 2 small dead-end cul-de-sacs, Timothy and Cyranus, that come off to the south of West Road. Their first request was that this project be put into the county's 50/50 program that we talked about a little bit earlier with Hidden Valley. Simple answer is it doesn't qualify. This is not a reconstruction. That program is intended to fund existing paved subdivision roads that are in need of repaving. This is a initial paving, taking it from gravel to asphalt, so it does not qualify for that. There's no decision to be made there. The county has made that very clear. So their second request was for the township to request that the road be paved under the county's 60/40 program, which is the program that funds paving of roads like 30 Mile and Powell up to the cemetery that we did in the past few years. That we're doing partially with 30 Mile over closer to Campground. That program says township pays 60%, county pays 40%, and you pave a main section line kind of road. We're doing West Road, we're doing the resurfacing of West Road under that program. That was brought to the Water and Sewer Committee and unanimously rejected under the guise of the committee agreed that we did not want to use up what limited capacity and dollars there are in that program from the county, excuse me, to pave a non-essential road that is essentially residential. It's a dead end. It's not a highly traveled road used throughout the township. the residents asked that that issue be considered by this board. And then I think further, the next step would be, if the answer is to no to that, the question was, would the board consider just a standard SAD where the residents are paying 100% of the cost, but the township is financing the initial cost? It's estimated this is about a $1.8 million project, quite expensive. It's a long stretch. It doesn't seem like it until you measure it out, but it's a long stretch of road. So I think those are the two questions that are before the board. Sam, you can confirm it. You know, do you want to request this be paved with through the county, through the 60/40 program? If no, would you consider funding it as an SAD, 100% resident cost?
Mike, how many homes or how many properties along that way would be assessed if we did an SAD?
Okay, I can answer that. I drove it today. I counted 19 houses
Okay.
on West Road.
Okay.
But there's
Does that
other-
include the Timothy and Cyranus, though?
This is a tricky one.
That's the problem.
Because here's what's going to happen. The homes that are on West Road are going to get a vote as a part of the SAD, if it was to go through with an SAD, because they have frontage on it per the statute. The homes on Cyranus and Timothy do not get a vote as to whether or not the SAD should move forward. But depending upon the assessor's evaluation of benefit, they would most likely be charged some portion of the assessment because they receive a benefit, i.e. they drive on the road to get to their street. So you are going to have a situation where people don't get to vote, but will get charged. So that's a fun little bonus for this project. But if 19 homes, and that includes the cul-de-sac, I think there's maybe 3 homes on the east side.
All the way to the
southeast
end?
Side of that not cul-de-sac, but the dead end that
I
goes
didn't
off.
count
to-
those.
Yeah, I think there's
That
3
includes
houses.
that.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Mike,
These are large lots.
a little over 7,000 feet of road.
Yeah, it's more than a mile of road. It's a hike, man, really.
So, okay, so that's the first part of the question.
Yep.
The second part of the question, do we have an over 50% residents that would go for an SAD?
So I think I know they have not circulated a petition at this point because I think they were looking for some direction, and I think, we did consult with Bob, and his direction was make sure the board, before you send anybody out going to get signatures, is there an appetite to even fund this as a standard SAD?
The residents would get the signatures, correct?
That's always the process.
Right.
So they have not had a formal or informal petition circulated at this, I can't say they haven't had an informal one, maybe they're talking. I know there's a vocal few that have been to the township.
They really have to only pick one way to do it.
Correct, I think that's the direction so that they understand, either way, no, not either way, if you go 60/40, it's a significant change in cost that they'd be they'd be covering, 100% of that 60%, that's a lot different than the 100%, so. But again, just to remind the board, the county's 60/40 program is also a limited pot of money. Sam can attest that we are regularly meeting and requesting projects to be paved as a part of that are strategic roads like the rest of Powell and 31 Mile Road and streets like that.
So my question to that is then, is that a consideration in which they use non-essential highly traveled road? If neighboring communities have one with a more traveled road, they're more likely to get the funding than we would on a less traveled road.
So I can't speak to their criteria because it's a little nebulous and not shared maybe. But I would say, again, it's a limited amount of money. I would think there is some priority placed on certain roads, and we have asked, and this board has budgeted to pave other more essential roads, and they continue to be kind of pushed down the line. My assumption is because there's a limited amount of money. They don't share how many dollars are there on those because that's funded through a variety of ways, so.
So would this be something that would be more suitable for our cost-sharing agreement, say 3-4 years down the road after we get through the essential roads?
That's up to us.
I guess
That's
my
not,
only concern there would be, you got a lot of unpaved roads
Yeah,
still
we
in the
do.
township that I don't know how, if they're gonna get paved by developers or if the township's gonna continue to invest in those, but, there is no short of mileage of roads that you could do for more than 2 or 3 years, realistically. I mean, we've been asking for Powell Road for 2 years. But there's a lot of roads still to go, is what I would say.
Hey, Mike, and we also try to put them on the limestone program
Yeah.
for, maybe you can get on it for a couple years, and they shot that down.
The county did.
Yeah,
Yeah, the county.
They won't even put them on the list.
they won't put them on the list unless we decide as a board that we wish to do an application there and pay for it ourselves, and that's always an option.
Correct.
That's an option too, correct.
Ken, if you could refresh me, drainage issues over
There's
there?
lots of them. There's
So-
issues with ditching, elevation of the lots adjacent to the roads. I mean, all that would be fixed.
Would there
with
be-
Paving, but
Drainage put in, or just ditches put in? And I mean drainage meaning pipe also
Yeah.
put in?
it would be a combination depending upon elevations and locations. The right-of-way is actually 120 feet there, which is kind of surprising. But if you've driven it today, you would see that there, like any of these roads that have not been paved before, there are trees right up to the edge of the road that interfere with where the ditches may or may not be located. So you'd be clearing some of that, trying to pull those ditches back a little bit and give yourself a better way to get the water off the road. It would, that's all included in that $1.8 million estimate that we're talking about. But as Rich said, it's 7,000 feet of road. It's a long way to go.
Thing that concerns me about this is there might be people that live on that road that just really can't afford this. It's going to be a huge burden.
Right, I mean, the petition would give you a better idea. You'd certainly have the ability to say, and this board has before, that, 51% is not enough. We want to see 61% or whatever. That's fully your discretion. But even then, that's 40% that maybe say no,
really
or
can't.
want to keep it a dirt road, or simply can't afford that. It's a variety of houses in there, larger lots, larger houses, smaller older houses. It's quite a variety.
Rich, if we were to limestone it, what would be a rough cost? What did we say, about 20,000?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I don't know if that's where you were going, but.
Yeah, I was. How much did you
thinking
say, Rich?
Around 20,
Around 20,000.
Around 20,000.
because that's where I was going to, like, maybe to help them out.
Where I was going, Sam.
Yeah,
But we're not
Because
sure what
it's
the
just
price
dirt
is
right now. It's
now.
not
yeah, no, I
gravel.
mean, yeah, we don't know the exact.
It's not even gravel, it's just dirt. There's no gravel.
Mud.
No, I mean, it needs something, yeah,
Yeah.
to build up the road.
I'm in agreement with Cindy, because I took 1.5 million divided by 19 homes, divided by 12, it's close to $4,000 a year per home. And that's a lot of money for some people that can or cannot afford it. I'm just wondering if the limestone would be a better option for them, or if we explain to them the actual cost, maybe they'll
Yeah,
go.
those
we've
estimates have been
explained-
provided.
we've explained,
Okay.
There's
It's
some
roughly
people that
60,000 a house.
don't seem to
Yeah,
blink.
It's not
There's
cheap.
some
It is,
people
Not cheap,
that
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
can't, maybe aren't part of the discussion either, that
Yeah.
aren't the ones pushing for it, right?
That's the part that I dislike the most, is we have those private roads off the side that have no say in anything. You're
Right.
getting a bill. It might be 1,000 or 2,000, but you're going to get a bill. Again, it's warranted. I agree with that, because they do have to use that road to get out of there, but they're not asking for it either, that I'm aware of.
If we did the limestone, would that include Timothy and Cyranus?
There's access issues on those streets. They're about as wide as that table, I think.
Yeah, no.
Getting
yeah.
trucks in there might be a little difficult, so I couldn't say for sure right now, but.
Do we have the authority to do it on a private road?
Yes.
We do?
Is this a private road?
No, there's offsets.
Part of
That's
it,
Cyranus
part of
and
it.
that.
Yeah, there's some debate if they're private or public. West Road is public, how's that?
Yeah, west is public.
Those two cul-de-sacs,
West of Mound, that's public?
correct, all the way to the
Okay,
park.
so, because I'm worried about setting a precedent here. I used to live on a private road, Miller Road. We
Yeah,
did
West
our
Road
own
is public.
limestone, we paid for it and everything else. So I'm worried about a precedent there, and since it is a public road, well, we wouldn't be setting a precedent if we went ahead and said, I think we should and could do something for the residents.
Would that be an amount that the township would absorb that whole amount for the limestone? Is that how
That's
that would
what
work
I'm-
then?
That was my idea, only because we have buses going down there, and I know in the wintertime they have some trouble.
I have no issue if that's the route that we go.
Yeah, mainly
For
for the
that
bus
amount?
safety.
Either.
Yeah, bus safety.
Yeah,
You
we
think-
can certainly work with Rich and come up with what an estimate of that amount would be. I don't want to have you commit to a number tonight, not knowing.
Well, Rich just said $20,000.
And
So,
he's going to
We're
foot the
holding you
rest.
to it, it's on camera.
well,
I don't know where they are right now with us, with the price, you know.
Because you got to remember the limestone program that you do with the county, they eat up part of the cost of the material as well as the full cost of the,
for two
the labor.
applications.
Labor.
Yeah, not two applications. We do the limestone by the mile. The applications is related to the chloride treatments.
Right.
But, so I would just, and honestly, that I believe is 6 inches that they always put down.
Right.
We may look at that and have the same issues that I know residents on some of the other mile roads have had where my mailbox is in the dirt.
Yeah, but. they've
4
never-
inches might be
I know,
enough.
but they've never had any.
It's true, they might need 14 inches. I don't.
The other roads have had it like year after year
That's
after
fair.
year.
So, we can,
So can we get a number put together and
There you
bring
go.
it back to the next meeting?
yeah, I think we could do that.
That would be my suggestion.
And, you know, and I think maybe some dialogue with those residents who've been pushing for it to say, here's kind of where the conversation's going.
Yeah, so
Is that something?
we also have to talk to the people on Lockwood, because they would have to come in the same route that the county, I think that's part of the reason county doesn't want to take it on, is because they have to bring all the trucks down Lockwood, and then back in, and then come around. That's why they call it a dead end. I don't know why. But just, that's how, you know, you're going to get complaints, because you're going to go down a paved county street, but,
Lockwood is public as well.
yeah, they're both public.
Correct.
And then would the county be involved? Would they have to do inspections or anything?
Oh, I'm sure they would. It's their street.
So how can we move this forward?
I mean, by the
think we
next
can-
meeting, you could have some information.
Yeah, I think we can get an answer from the Department of Roads, you know, on the maintenance end of it, that part. We still got to get a price for the limestone, so I'm sure we can get that.
And if they're not willing to do the actual physical work, then it's an estimate to have, you know, provided they would approve something like that, right? And say, you know what, we're not going to do it, but you're welcome to do that as a part of maintenance. Because again, this is a little different than like a Miller Road where
Right.
it's your road at the end of the day. You guys can do whatever you want. We would just want to make sure that that's something that they would approve, obviously, before you move forward. But I think we can do it.
So next meeting, we can get that information, and we can get some hard numbers from estimates and
We can give it a
for
shot.
limestone. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Mike.
Out of curiosity, those two private roads, when they come down and snowplow West Road, do they also do those private roads that just go all the way around and not do it at
Great
all?
question, I don't know.
Okay,
I
I'm
gotta
just,
tell you, I don't think they do too
They
much
don't?
snow plowing down there. Only when
If it's as wide as that
Only when the
table.
buses are in trouble.
got it, okay.
It's one car.
So do we have to make a position on the 60/40 or the 100% before we go into the limestone program? And say we're not going to do this, or we are going to do it, or we're tabling it, or what are we going to do?
Well, I think we're going to inform the neighbors that it doesn't sound favorable. This is an option that we're going to explore and see if they're willing to do that.
I would suggest that they would probably be more willing to do that if we said we weren't interested in helping them with the 60/40 or the 100%.
Then, do you want to make a motion to that, Mr. Cobb?
Well, I think based on the output from the infrastructure committee, we basically voted unanimously to not support this.
As a 60/40, and then I don't know if we raised our hands, or you guys raised your hands or not,
I think we
about
did.
the SAD,
On
only
the
because
100%,
it
yeah.
was a little more unknown.
Yeah.
You know, that becomes a cash flow issue maybe of, do you guys have $1.8 million sitting around to fund it up front?
Not as many road projects as we have going on. I don't think we do.
Right.
Well, I guess, in order to put a pin in this one, I guess I would make a motion to deny the 60/40 for the West Road reconstruction.
Support.
Okay, motion by Cobb, seconded by Dukowski.
Any from the audience?
And, yes, any comments from the audience on this? Or? Otherwise, if no other questions, roll call.
Kopp,
Yes.
Tatowski,
Yes?
Olson,
Yes,
Praviti,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
Olad,
Yes.
Babinski is a yes.
Motion passed to deny the 64.
Yep.
And the limestone will just
Well, Gary
bring it up
brought up,
next meeting.
yeah, well, Gary brought up the SAD, and do you want to make a motion, kind of put a pin in that one too? At least, because we don't see that happening this year. There's no way.
I guess I'm going to toss that one up in the air and suggest that, if it's going to be $2 million by the time we're done with this thing, do we have $2 million to float for an SAD for this program?
I wouldn't support that.
No, I wouldn't.
I'll make a motion to deny the 100% SAD.
I will
Support.
Okay, motion by Kopp, seconded by Pollad. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing. I probably should have said it before. If we do the limestone, we get the price and that, we're also going to get the price to grade it. Because we don't have any.
That would help.
We don't have any graders. That's part of the limestone program.
Yeah.
So just so you know that.
Yep.
So that 20,000, who knows what the
They just dump it in
the labor for
Big
putting that
pile.
down.
Now the holes,
And if I may suggest also to brine it afterwards,
Pardon me?
to brine it afterwards.
Yeah, they brine everything, that's part of the
All dirt
program.
roads, right?
Yeah.
I guess, no other comments, roll call.
Kopp,
Yes.
Olad,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Potowski,
Yes,
Babinski is a yes. Praviti,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
Okay, motion passed.
thank you.
To deny the SAD.
So now do we have to make a motion to instruct Giffords and Webster to come up with a quote for the limestone, or how does that work?
Or is Rich doing
I
it?
just
we
thought
need to do that,
they would
Rich?
present it at the
Nice.
next meeting.
Get it without.
Rich has got it.
Okay.
Any little help he needs from us will.
Okay, good, okay.
Rich has got a side business doing gravel.
Doing gravel.
so we're just postponing this to the next regular meeting.
Gotcha.
Okay, next is the item 10.10, the OHM contract renewal. This will be, we have.
Morning.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
You can bring that mic up to you a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to present this contract renewal for GIS services with the township. So we've been working with the township for the last 4 years to develop and update the township's utilities GIS, and we've been creating applications for DPW, planning, zoning, or map viewing. And we're looking to continue on the success of that project for the next 3 years. And if there's any questions, I can field them.
In Rich's opinion, how is this working out?
I think it's been working out good. Nothing against Mike. This is just something that we wanted to, we're bringing this to you to put a closing date on a contract that we did not do. I mean, the previous group made the contract. So we just wanted a closing date and continue on for right now. Everything's been going good with it. We have a list of jobs. That's why we put that number on there for 45,000. And we would go back to Stan and first showing Sam and then go back to Stan to put out the PO and say how much we're going to spend at what particular time, not to exceed that 45,000 each year. I have a list of jobs that we're waiting to continue on.
Hey, Rich, in my naivety, can you give me a high-level vision of what this actually means? I've read this contract over a couple times, and I still come up confused, because I see things like vacuum breakers, I see 6 of these and 135 of those. Are these residential, are these commercial, industrial, what are they?
I think you're on the wrong, this is OHM.
wait,
Yeah.
We're on 10.10, that's 10.12, Gary.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
That's what
you are on the wrong page.
Am I on the wrong page?
You are.
Never mind.
We're not laughing at you. We're really not.
Yeah,
I'll let
no,
you know
you're
in a
laughing
minute.
at me, not with me. I got it. Okay. Sorry.
At least you're not behind, you're ahead.
I'm way ahead of myself, yeah.
If you want, there's a
Okay.
whole bunch of questions on hourly
Hold on to
rates.
that question. You'll hear it
Gary, I
again.
know you want to get done quick.
Right.
Can you explain what the difference between task 1 and task 2 is? I didn't see that in there unless I was missing it, but you got one price for task 1 and one price for task 2.
So task 1 is going to be directly helping DPW, and task 2 is for all other township departments. Yep. So we have the 35 for task 1 and the 10 for task 2.
So right now, clerk's department has used them with working on our precinct splits.
So this involves like planning and zoning, session department clerks, and the fire department also. So it's a combination of different departments.
Correct.
It is in there, Mike.
Is it?
Yeah, task 2.
Okay, thanks. Yep.
Is there like overlapping with the county at all, or is this just for the Township of Washington?
This is just for Washington Township.
So what we also do is we allow the Spalding to use it for the sidewalk program. Mike just reminded me I'm supposed to get with OHM because Giffords needs it also. They use GIS.
They basically create the maps with the different level, there's different layers electronically that show the different utilities in the township. And so whether it's DPW or planning and zoning or assessing, or for this instance, we're redoing the precincts for the elections for the, what would you call, yeah, precincts, sorry, depending on the population per area.
I think Pat, in assessing, she had used this for the special assessments too, I believe.
Yeah, they use it for assessing too. If there's no questions, I'd like to make the motion to approve the contract.
I'll second. Oh, you got it. Was that Paulette?
Polat, okay. So motion by Praviti, seconded by Polat. Any questions or comments from the audience? Otherwise, roll call?
Praviti?
Yes.
Polad?
Yes?
Olson?
Yes,
Kopp?
Yes.
Tatowski?
Yes.
Nicely?
Yes.
And Babinski is yes.
Motion passed. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
thank you.
The next item is discussion of hiring a township planner. I've emailed everyone today, guess I'd call Mike Kozak up again. As the board's aware, Patrick has put in he'll be here for 2 weeks more onto Better Pastures, and we wish him all the best. In the meantime, I'd like to ask the board to help with the transition and kind of work with Patrick before he leaves. If we could hire, it's a natural fit to have Giffords Webster fill in for the time being as our planner to help with the current projects and also help with the PC meetings with reviews. And as you'll see the attachment, and Mike's here, he can kind of explain as well, but they obviously have different consultants with specialties in different areas, including the master plan that we're kind of in the middle of, so to help us finish the master plan this year. And I guess I'll turn it over to Mike.
Sure.
I don't know if you have a little bit better.
Sam reached out last week, obviously with a need to kind of fill a gap right now. And, our team, we have a dedicated team of planners that I think if you take one page out of this entire document, this beautiful little spreadsheet matrix kind of gives you an idea of where we're doing work. Where we've done it specifically here is, almost 4 years ago, we did the clear zoning of your zoning ordinance, right? Which is, a proprietary product that our team created to take kind of difficult to read and difficult formatted zoning ordinances and turn them into a very searchable and visually pleasing PDF that is your zoning ordinance. This board approved work for us last 2 meetings ago on the master plan and wayfinding signage that's going through our planning group as well. And we have, again, a large staff of planners ready to take over and help with any of the existing plan reviews that are out there, as well as continuing the master plan effort that you guys have ongoing now. So there's some real obvious synergies where this is all coming out of the same company now. Our letters can be on the same letterhead with engineers' comments and planners' comments. You can have conversations, and not to say, we weren't talking with Patrick all the time. But we can have those conversations before those letters are issued to clarify any issues between the two different disciplines and ensure that developers are understanding what's required of them. So we have a really good team that's excited and ready to step in and help out, kind of bridge that gap, and keep you guys moving along. I'd love to answer any questions.
Utter silence. Well, I'd like to jump in here. First of all, I'm very disappointed to hear that Patrick's leaving. I think Patrick has been an asset to this township. He has been a model for developing this township the way it has grown. We are obviously a growing community, and we need strong community development and planning. Having said that, I look at his employment contract, and it says Community Development Director. What you're requesting is a planning support, I guess is what I wrote down, 2 weeks, the transition, to fill a gap of planners. We're not replacing a planner, we're replacing a community development director. Help me out here. I think we've got a planning director already. So why are we looking to supplement that with more planners? I don't know who I'm directing that question to with this comment.
I'm just returning it to the way we were. We always had a planning consultant, which was Patrick for many years, so I'd like to go back and have a planning consultant back to the way.
So is this a community development or a planning person? If it's a planning director, we've already got a planning director.
I'll jump in now and I'll just piggyback on that a little bit. So we would be going back to the relationship that was there when Patrick had his own standalone company and the consultant that was doing your plan reviews, your master plan stuff. As far as the role that the community development director that was created when Patrick came aboard, that's a personnel issue that I think is a separate thing. That's obviously not under our purview. That's not what we do for any community.
Accept that, yeah.
And obviously, if that is a position that I think the board wants to continue to have in a role here, that's going to take a little time to find the right fit for that person. So, our proposal and what our scope would be limited to is just continuing plan reviews, keeping master plan stuff going, ordinance amendments that, if we ever finish the sidewalk ordinance change, that would be a part of that as well. But the question of whether or not a community development director or someone on that community development side, I think, is a different personnel issue that, should be figured out and would require a longer search, obviously, I would suspect.
One of the concerns that I had is that he was here every day. And based upon reading your material here, there are going to be several costs that are going to be incurred. And it appears that, too, a lot of the things that are here are intertwined with like the jobs that you're doing right now, too.
I think there's I guess I would say that there's a division of labor that would be related just to the planning side of it. So the team, the planners from my office that would be working on this don't cheat over into the engineering side and vice versa. I mean, there's synergy between the two of us to make sure that we're talking the same message for any review or any project that's potentially under consideration for development. But I think there's a clear limit and there really isn't any overlap. If there's a specific spot where you think I'd be happy to address a specific thing, but I don't anticipate any overlap.
Just like in here, too, you have, attending certain meetings. Well, I still think there's going to be an overlap. I mean, duplication. That's one of my concerns.
So you don't pay us on the engineering side to be at the planning commission meetings per our contract. There would be a planner at that meeting because it's, I think, everyone would agree it's quite crucial to have someone with that knowledge base to be able to speak to what the ordinance requires and all of the nuance that occurs at those meetings. That would be a part of this. We attend those meetings at no cost really to kind of, as a voice of answering infrastructure issues and really to educate ourselves on what's happening. That would still occur with no added costs except for you used to always pay a planner to be at those meetings when there was a consultant relationship there before. It would be the same as that.
Which is covered by the fees that the applicant
Correct. The
pays.
retainer that is the
We don't
same as
pay
it
it.
was when community planning was your planner. The site plan review fee schedule is going to stay exactly the same, no changes to that either. So those costs now that are incurred just go towards covering the budget. And again, I don't know how it all works internally of how you guys are allocating those dollars, but I assume it helps to offset the cost of Patrick's position. Now it'll just go back to like it was before, and it's just a pass-through cost from the developer, excuse me.
Because some of the things too, like when Pat's here, when the developers come in and he worked with them, and I think that's a big asset right there because but with like not having him here or as a person here, I think that's going to slow the process, with the developers.
Right, and I don't want to overstep my position to tell you that I think you should have that position filled, and I think, again, that's the decision of, the officers or this entire board or however you choose to do it, that does Washington Township need a community development person? I think you're going to find that you probably do. Whether that person continues to do plan reviews in other communities, that position exists, and it's wholly separate from a planner, or sometimes it overlaps, or you still have a consultant. I think you have options to do that. We're not trying to fill that portion of the role. We can't fill that portion of the role. No consultant should fill that. It should be a person that you employ that should be here.
This is just a temporary fix for now to,
Correct.
moving forward for the time being.
I don't think we should have temporary fixes, We have a
Well, we can't have
planning
nothing
and
here.
zoning director right now, and what we are losing is a community development director. And so that's the position we should be looking at. Additionally, we have historically gone out and solicited bids from multiple companies that can do this right here. So
We can, I'm asking
do we
for.
have any bids?
We don't, because this just happened 3 days ago. What I'm
He's still-
asking for is
he's
if we
still
can
here for
do this
2
for
weeks.
like 2 or 3 months.
Right, he's still
Until we
here
can
for
get
2
bids
weeks.
out.
He's still here for 2 weeks, so he hasn't left yet. So we're running into the same.
But I'd like to
thing
have
on
some-
why I voted against a PC member, because the other PC member wasn't gone yet. It's like.
Okay, well, I'm not talking about PC members right now, but
I understand.
what I'm saying is, we have some transition time. Let's do this for the next 3-4 months, and then it'll give us time to get us quotes in, because
I guess
Stan right
if
now is
you
busy with
had
other.
community development manager on here, I might agree with you.
But we need a planner to do the plan reviews at the.
You had
PC.
removed Patrick out of the planning and zoning quite
No,
a
he's-
while ago when
no,
you
he's
finished your
still under that
contract without
budget.
the board.
He's still under the budget there.
So his title is Community Development Manager, and that's what I think we should be going for. Somebody that can help guide this township and not just, we have a planner, We have planning and zoning, and we paid a lot of money for that. I think it's $90,000 a year for that position.
So Patrick had a conversation with you today, you emailed us. Maybe, would you like to share that conversation with us, so we're all on the same page? We have an email from Sam saying that he talked to you today about this. Maybe you have a recommendation based on that
I do.
conversation you had with Sam today?
I haven't had a chance to look at my emails. so
I didn't talk
I'm
to
not aware
Patrick
of
today.
what
He
you're
was off
talking
today.
about.
Your email says that you had a conversation with him.
Yeah, it does.
I didn't.
Remember that.
I'm just wondering why we're even losing Patrick today.
I don't know, I
he's one of the
can't
best-
shackle the guy to
we're-
tell him to stay to work.
We have one of the best planners, community development directors in the state. I question the motivation and the intelligence of your decision to make his secretary his boss which is probably one of the big motivators for him leaving. And I'm really sorry that this.
She's not his secretary, she's the director of
She was
planning and zoning.
administrator.
No,
in
she's the
November.
director of planning and zoning.
In November, you were administrator, and then suddenly you were director in
Because that's
November.
my title in my contract, is the planning and zoning director.
So you're our planner. You're our planner.
Okay. What was the conversation we were supposed to have? All you asked me was for a few hours off today, and I said, no problem. I don't know.
Like I said, I haven't read any email. I don't know what the conversation that we're talking about even is.
That's what I'm trying to.
I can read the email if it would
Yeah, read
be
it.
helpful. It says, please see the attached agenda item 10.11. Due to the need of a planner, I would like to request the board to consider using Giffords Webster firm. They are honoring our fee schedule and will be used as needed. Since we have a great working relationship, for the time being, this will be an immediate solution. Not intermediate, immediate.
Yeah.
I have also spoken with Patrick, and this will give us several days of transition meetings with Patrick and Giffords to review any open items.
Yeah, I spoke with Patrick if we could have some transition meetings before
Well,
he left.
this is what Cindy, I believe.
And he said okay
asked
a couple days
question
ago.
of. And that's all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as long as I'm here, I'll do whatever I need to transition and get work done, so certainly. That's fine. And I can just echo some of what Mike was saying. The Giffel Webster planners, I have a great deal of respect for the several that I do know there, so.
Is Giffords the only company that we could hire?
Well, there's lots of different planning firms in southeast Michigan. You know,
Are there any that you would recommend?
Well, I'd recommend a lot of them. I mean, I know most of the planners. Like I said, I know the ones at Mike's office. I shouldn't say I know all of them. I know several of them, and they're all excellent.
Because I believe the
There's
position
excellent
we have
ones,
open is community development manager, not planning director. We have a planning and zoning director.
Yeah, I don't want to roll in the mud with that stuff.
No, I don't
The
either.
only thing I
So
can tell you
it's-
is,
I'm looking to everybody here at the board table and saying, what are we looking at here?
We don't know what we're looking at. We don't, what's this person's job, duties, responsibilities going to be? Who are they going to answer to? Who will be their boss? We need to know what they're going to do before we look at hiring somebody.
I don't even think we're at this point. We're just trying to solve a problem before it gets out of hand, and so we don't put anybody behind in terms of the planning that they have and everything. As Sam mentioned in his email, it's just, where it should be a temporary fix, even though some people don't like the temporary fix, but you're not going to hire somebody in 2 weeks to take over. We all know what the labor market is like. We may not find anybody for 6 months, for 3 months. We can't be afforded without a planner consulting on us on which direction is the best way to go. 2 weeks, we're not going to hire somebody in 2 weeks. So if you need to do Giffords Websters until we find somebody, then let's just do that. There's no sense of delaying any projects because of that.
Is Dana our planner or not our planner? Because we've been told for many, many months now that Dana's the planner.
I'm the
So
planning and
I'm-
zoning
She's the planning
director,
and zoning
and we've
director.
always had a planning consultant. I've been in this role as the planning and zoning director since 2013, and I've been here 24 years in total. We've always had a planning consultant. Prior to Patrick coming on as the community development director, he was our planning consultant, and he was on the retainer and hourly schedule and fee schedule that Mike is proposing to move forward with. So it's so that there's not an interruption with reviews, with plan reviews, not only for my department, DPW, building department. I mean, there's a lot of, we have the master plan we're working on. I just don't want an interruption in anything. So as we work towards whatever it is the board decides to do with that position, at least we're not going to have a delay or an interruption for reviews.
I'm going to make a motion that we table this until we have more information as to who we're hiring, what their job description is, who they're going to answer to.
But we're not hiring anybody. All we're doing is asking for a
I will
consultant.
support
This is
that motion.
discussion, yeah. We need a lot more information.
Stan, I'm going to look to you for a question or to answer on this one. It sounds like, to me, we're just single sourcing this thing. Is our purchasing requirement that we should go out for bids?
Well, we can always go out to bids on anything that we want to do. Again, I think this is a situation in which we're trying to fill the gap for a period of time until we can get someone an interview and do. Patrick's yes here for a couple of weeks, and as what Mike had said, there is a period of time, it may be several months before we actually get someone. So we're going to just not have a plan reviewer during those 6 months? That's the way I'm seeing this.
That's my question. I guess, are we breaking policy by not going out for bids?
Hey,
That's
Gary.
my question.
Can I talk or no?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come up there, sorry.
Part of the logic was, you have an existing contract with us. It spells out all the things we can do, and it indicates that there may be other things from time to time that are as needed that can be done under that contract that would be negotiated as a part of that contract. So the theory was, you're not starting a new relationship. You have a contractual relationship with us. We're just expanding a service underneath that. Here are the items that are covered by that service. This is a consultant relationship. You're not even hiring Giffords Webster. You already hired us. We already work for you guys. This is just, hey, can you do this for us? Just as if Rich decided tomorrow that, OHM, he doesn't want them to do the GIS anymore, you would come back to us and go, okay, can we do the GIS again? It's in your contract. You have these tasks that are there. And we'd say, yep, here's the proposal. You don't have to bid that out either. It's no different than that because you already have an existing relationship. That was the theory.
Yeah, that's similar to Plant Moran. Whenever we need them, we just ask them to do something, and we just do them on a consulting basis, basically. They're already our vendor.
I think the difference is we don't have an exclusivity agreement with you, right?
Yeah, of course, but I think it's within your discretion of the way the contract is written that you can add or subtract services at any time.
Again, under these
Bob,
circumstances.
are we breaking any rules by doing a temporary hire?
Breaking what rules?
I don't know, they're saying we're breaking some sort of,
Nobody said anybody's breaking any rules. I'm questioning whether or not we
questioning the
have a
rules.
rule that
Questioning
says
the
you should
rules.
go out for 3 bids. That's all I'm questioning.
yeah.
So again, in these circumstances, if you don't mind, Bob, I'll just speak for myself. I would say this could be considered an emergency situation, right? Until we can do this, we are going to enact this right now. It's not saying this is forever.
No.
This is a temporary, we need to do this just like we did with the vehicles. Once we're done through this vehicle situation, we go back to the normal process. But for the time being, this is the route of going to have someone do our planning until we do the normal process of hiring and getting someone here and going through the interviewing process.
Patrick, could you put together a list of recommendations of other firms that this board could look at? And I'm not saying anything against Giffords Webster. They've done a great job. I've seen Mike in action for a lot of years, okay? Sometimes we need to separate things to get a good perspective or a different perspective.
Yeah, I could put a list together if that's what you're interested in. It's not an issue.
I would like to see that.
As a compromise, Cindy, would you consider hiring the firm for 3 months on a temporary basis?
My motion stands.
Okay.
Dana, based upon your estimate, if the board approves or disapproves what Giffords Webster's is trying to do to help us out, we already know we have a 2-week delay. We have another possibility of another 2-week delay by looking at other vendors. So let's say that's a month. How far behind will the township be, in your estimate, by waiting a month with developers, planners, and the building department, do you think?
It would impact my June and my July planning commission, as well as postponing all master plan workshops. It would also impact any plan reviews that come in for decks or anything else that Patrick does do reviews for certain things with our building department. I don't know if Rich can speak on anything, that it would impact, with his department, but it would definitely impact the June and the July, based on deadlines, Planning Commission, to the point where I might just have to not have those meetings. It just depends on what we get in. We're extremely busy right now. I have 3 brand new submissions I just received that haven't even hit the Planning Commission level because they're in the administrative review portion. So they're looking at a June or July meeting date. So it definitely would impact. It would slow things down. It would impact the department.
I don't know if that's such a bad thing with the residents saying we have too much building going on.
It's going to happen regardless if we have the meetings or
I
we don't.
understand
But
that.
it's going to
All
make
it's doing is delaying it.
It's going to push the construction and everything into the later part of the year, and then we're going to have extremely busy August and September, PC meetings. So it's going to be a very overwhelming agenda based on not being able to have those 2 meetings if we were not to have a planning consultant available to us.
And the primary source of revenue for the building departments are building permits.
Correct.
Correct.
So the building department can't review this stuff?
Well, if we're not proceeding with, any development, there's no building permits coming in. I mean, obviously, that puts a delay, and then the time of year that things are approved, once it gets through engineering, that's another 6 months. So it'll impact their, data construction, and, yeah, I mean, it would impact building permits that are coming in. It would delay everything 2 months.
All right, I guess I have to understand this a little bit more. One of the things that I've heard for the last 2 years, and one of the things that was run on an election was, I don't need a planner, I don't need a community development, I don't need an assistant supervisor. And we're losing one person, and why that one person's going to turn the township in turmoil. Something's not right. And so, Patrick, please explain to me what you did or what you used to do that is the big concern.
Well, I think it's been summarized fairly well. I do most of the planning reviews, site plans, special land uses, rezonings, subdivisions, site condos, all of those types of reviews. I complete them.
So if we have a planning and zoning director, can't the planning and zoning director do that?
I think like it was said earlier, even before I took this position as community development director, I was doing it as a planning consultant for the township with my firm. And,
Well, hopefully some of your knowledge has rubbed off.
In 25 years.
again,
I guess I'd want to know what exactly Dana's job description and job duties are, as opposed to what this new person would be doing. I don't even know what we're hiring, what they're going to do, what are their job responsibilities, who are they going to report to, what's their
I thought
salary?
you just explained.
Well,
It's all in the packet.
This is a lot. This is a huge, huge decision. We got this at, 3:30 today? I think we need more information.
Again, this is a temporary fix for 3 to 4 months until we can hire
But
someone.
that's not at all the way the email was written. It says, this will be an immediate solution.
Yeah, it will be an immediate solution.
So immediate solution means done and over with.
Okay,
It
well
does
then,
not say temporary. Immediate solution
Okay,
says,
so it'll be an immediate
okay, we've
temporary
solved it, we're
solution.
moving on.
Well, I have a motion on the table to table this. We need, until we have more information to make a proper decision.
And I have supported that motion.
okay. Any questions or comments from the audience or other board members?
Yeah, just one from me. I work with all three of them here. I need all three of them. Someday it's him, someday it's her, someday it's always him on the phone, but I'm busy enough. I don't do planning and zoning. I help with the building department.
I don't know what to tell you guys. I just hope we can get going with it, stay with it. Maybe he'll pass some of that stuff on, I'm sure he will. But I need the help too.
Come to the podium. No, you have to come, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just because you're on camera, Bill, so they can't always hear you back there.
So Sam, you're under a UAW contract. In that contract, I believe that it states the positions, the salaries, and so on of the employees, your supervisors.
Correct.
Under Local 412, correct?
Yes.
Has your board ever read that? Do they know what these people do?
I guess not, because they're asking, so I don't know.
I've read every one of those contracts multiple times, and Patrick does not have a UAW contract, if that's your question.
I believe he does.
No, he's an independent contractor.
He's an independent.
He's independent.
Yes, sir.
Yes, he does not have a union contract.
And then from what I understand, he reports to Dana.
No.
He reports to me.
He reports to Sam.
He was hired by the board.
Is that who you report to, Patrick? You report to Sam or Dana?
I report to Sam.
I understood Dana's your boss.
That's not my understanding.
That's what I was told.
So if Sam's his boss and then Sam gives the direction, but if Patrick wishes to leave, then I mean, we can't handcuff him here, you know what I'm saying?
No, he has an end date. He is leaving.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm just sitting back here listening. It just sounds like you're a little cheering section for him or something. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I guess there's a motion to table this.
Yes, there is. Senator Nadowski.
Roll call.
Could you read the motion one more time for me, please?
I will ask Cindy to repeat it because I didn't run out of room.
Table this discussion until we have more information in order to make a decision.
And you're listed 4 criteria.
I want to know what Dana's job responsibilities and duties are. I want to know what this new job title will be, what their duties and responsibilities will be, what the pay will be. Anything else I should add in that? I don't know.
Who they report to?
Who they report to? Yeah, thank you.
Olson,
Yes?
Nadowski,
Yes?
Babinski's a no. Praviti,
No.
Nicely,
No.
Polad,
No.
Cop.
Yes.
Okay. Motion fails.
I think we need a temporary solution to this, and we can look into whatever the last motion was. But I think we need to move on. We can't just stop the city, the township from not doing their normal duties.
Yeah, I make a motion that we can continue with Giffords Westboro. Sorry, Mike.
You're going to get it.
We'll get it one of these days with Giffords.
GWE.
With Giffords for a period of 90 days and give enough time to try to find somebody and then reevaluate after 90 days.
What are their job duties and responsibilities going to be, Mike?
What it says in here as a planner.
Yeah. It says it in the information that he has. He's not a full-time employee.
We just had this.
I, for one, have not had a chance to read this. I haven't heard a
No.
second yet, so I guess I'll just sit and wait for my comment.
I'll make a second, just to get discussion going.
Yes.
And I have not had an opportunity. to
Motion by
read this.
Nicely, seconded by Pollard. Any questions or comments? No.
I have not had any opportunity to read this. The first thing that glares out at me is the planning services is $1,000 a month retainer, which will provide 4 hours of consulting services for $1,000. That's $250 an hour.
We've always had that for the past 20 years. Retained.
I'm reading this for the first time.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
No, I'm saying it's been around for 20 years.
I haven't been around for 20 years, so I don't know that all
Okay,
this
I'm
stuff.
sorry.
Maybe you have privy information to this. I do not.
No, I just,
So all I'm suggesting is that since we're having the discussion anyway, and we're talking about Giffords Webster, The point would be, how do I know that their billing rate is so much better, so much worse? I understand the synergies. I love Mike to death, don't get me wrong. I love Giffords, I think it's a great company. My question has to be, for the lookout for the residents of this community, are we spending the money correctly, appropriately, fairly for their tax dollars which they earn?
And are we hiring for the right position? We have a community development manager leaving, and we're going to hire a planning
Consultant.
township planner, and so what happens to our community development?
Well, if we don't do anything, we're already 2 months behind.
I guess maybe a suggestion would be, like Mike had said, for 90 days, but at the next board meeting, that the firm can come back and, or Sam, and give us what the fees are going to be during that time period. So we're not really finalizing it, but we're possibly tabling it until next meeting so we can find out what their fees would be. But I suggest that we need to have them on board.
Yeah, their fees are in here, though.
So what,
If I
what do
can
we
speak
do
to
with
the
the
fees?
monies?
Aren't the fees
No, the
passed?
fees are-
Well, the fees are dependent on what we receive for submissions. That's what the fee schedule that we have currently until next February, that same fee schedule that's what they're going to receive. That doesn't change. So it's dependent on whatever we
pass-through.
receive in. It's not going to be a set rate. If we have 5 site plans or, a PUD, a rezoning, that fee schedule, that's what we're receiving in. The $1,000 retainer is for attendance at meetings, it's for the master plan stuff. It's for the things that are over and above that, what we receive in for those review fees for the site plans and anything that goes through planning and zoning.
Master plan stuff. So are they taking over the master plan? Are they writing the master plan?
We're moving forward with the master plan. So whatever evolves after this interim, involvement as our consultant, if it's another position, that we can't just stop everything. So we're just moving forward as we would.
So we currently have money in the budget for planning and zoning. I'm sorry, for township planner. We currently have money in there. Are we removing that money then?
You mean for the community director?
For the community development director, yes. Are we removing that money for the community development director from the budget? And, or are we going to allow the hiring of an outside company and turn around and hire somebody else? Because if you leave that money there, that's a possibility.
Right, but that contract, my understanding then, you would have to create a whole new contract because that contract was specific to that role and the person filling that position.
So that's my question to the board.
However the board wants to proceed, if this motion passes for 90 days, it gives us 90 days to discuss that and put a job notice out and whatever.
So give me some background. So if we do put a job notice, what's it going to say? How many companies are going to be involved? Are we going to get a list from Patrick? So are we just doing a stopgap and then we get to the 90 days and we go, well, gee, we really don't have a backup plan here. So I'd like to know more.
Patrick, can I ask for your assistance in helping prepare what we need to put out there to have a replacement person versus a company that we can put out to bid?
Yeah, again, I'm happy to help in any way.
So would this be on the position we go out for a community development manager?
I think if we have community development director right now in the budget, and we're not hiring the same exact position, we should remove that money from the budget.
Okay. Right now, we have a motion about a 90-day temporary solution.
And we're discussing that.
Any other comment? Otherwise, roll call on the motion on the table. It was by Pollard and
Nicely and
or
Pollard.
Nicely and Pollard, sorry.
Nicely.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Cop.
No.
Previti.
Yes.
Olson,
No.
Tatowski,
It would be a shame if this passed. No.
and I am going to say yes.
Motion passed.
I'm going to make a motion that we remove the salary that's in the budget right now for the Community Development Director, since we are not hiring the same position.
I will support that.
And put it where?
I suggest that we keep it in because we're going to need it for the
Yeah.
consultants.
We're going to
It
have to
makes
make
no
a
sense to do
budget
that.
amendment when we find out who the new hire is and what their salary is.
Everything should be left as it is, and then we can address
Do
that.
the amendments at the
That's
end of the
Yeah,
year.
at the end of the year, yes.
Well, if I don't have a second, then it won't go through, but
Again, my fear is we bring a consulting firm on board and then we turn around and we hire a community development manager. And now we're paying a consulting company probably, I'm going to guess, in the area of 120 to 150, plus another 80K to do the master plan. So you're up to about $250,000 to replace some guy that everybody said was overpaid at, what, 110?
I guess just a question relative to Cindy's motion. How do we plan on paying Giffords and Webster for their services if it doesn't come out of that budget?
well, this was budgeted as a salary for the Community Development Director. So what would happen to that money? We just move it to a different
What
slot?
if it just sat there? I don't know.
I don't- I
I'm
don't know
suggesting,
either.
I'm more curious about where the money is going to come from to pay the people that we're trying to bring on board for this 90 days, as opposed to the money that's sitting there.
Again, it comes
for the-
from the applicants when they pay the fees for the reviews. It's a pass-through. The $1,000 retainer is what we're up, what the township puts.
So all of Patrick's salary was paid for by the residents or the
Not
the
all of it,
petitioners?
no, it was supplemented by the review.
Okay, so some of it is then going to have to be paid by a budget, probably come out of the general fund.
No, he was, well, yeah, out of the general fund under the planning and zoning.
Well, whatever money that we're not using to pay Patrick would be to use the funds and out of the general fund to pay the overruns on Giffords Westbrook.
And then we're still going to...
Gosh,
Giffords
darn it.
Webster.
Feel like
Thank
all
you.
stuttering tonight.
Yes.
It's easy for you to say.
Thank you very much, Mike, for pointing it out. So,
I'm still confused.
I mean, we're looking at hiring out $250,000 worth of work with a $110,000 salary. The numbers just don't add up.
well, we don't know it's $250,000.
I didn't see $250,000.
That's very high.
Yeah, Mike's eyes open.
Yeah.
By the time you go through the master plan, that's about 80,000, because
They've never spent.
Mike's writing it down. Mike, it doesn't mean you're getting the contract, buddy.
Do 4 limestone applications for 80.
You know, but it could be upwards into that area.
It could.
We're not rewriting the master plan. I mean, there's going to be some money that's obviously going to be necessary.
We
for
already
us
have
to
that money
complete
in the
it.
budget too for the master plan portion. And
Right.
all the materials and stuff.
Sam, do
Yes, sir.
you think at the next meeting, you could give us an estimate, working with the firm, what it cost for the next 90 days? And then bring it up at the
Yeah, no,
next
I
meeting?
would do it way before 90 days.
Because this way, it might help the board to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, sorry, definitely, yeah. No problem. Not on the microphone.
So in the meantime, do we go out and put an ad in the paper to hire somebody? Because this is a temporary solution based on your words, so we need a permanent solution.
And that's why I asked Patrick.
Yeah, I'm
That's
saying,
why I'm
maybe
just following
Patrick
up.
can help us put a job description out. I mean,
Following-
we're going to have to interview and
Yep.
it's not going to be,
Okay.
I'm assuming it's going to eat up the 90 days. I don't know, I could be wrong,
Yeah,
maybe.
it will.
Are we creating a committee to do these interviews? Or is
We're
it
the
just going
personnel
back to you
committee,
guys?
us three, but
You three.
Patrick can help.
The Personnel Committee?
I would suggest that the final pick to be done by this board,
Well, definitely.
with not just one, but let's see all the applicants.
Well, yeah.
And it'd be my guess that we will continue moving forward on a contract basis with that new person.
Patrick, I want to say this, it's been a pleasure working with you. I've worked with you about 9 years now, not as long as a lot of these other fine folks have. But you've always been a gentleman. You've always answered every question honestly, without bias. When we asked for your recommendation, you didn't give us a recommendation, you gave us a thought on which for us to make our decision on. And for that, I thank you. I wish you nothing but the best in your move over to Rochester. And I'm going to stop in there and see you at your meeting and tell them what a hell of a great guy they got, because we are losing.
Come up to the podium.
Damn straight. Damn straight. So thank you, Patrick.
Very difficult to replace.
I appreciate the kind words. I'm real excited
what's
about the
funny.
new position, and so great move for me as a career, so I appreciate the words.
Congratulations. We have a motion on the table and a second.
I didn't hear the
Did someone
second.
second?
I didn't hear a
I
second.
seconded it.
Oh, right.
Otherwise, we couldn't have the conversation.
Repeat the
The motion was to remove Patrick's salary from the budget,
From the planning and zoning
planning and
budget.
zoning budget.
We're going to move it too, just like Mike
Yeah.
said.
I would go to Heidi or somebody to ask that question. I do not know.
Is it possible to just freeze the money and leave it there? So we can't spend it for supporting a contract hire?
I would go with that.
Well, we can't hire anybody until board approval, so it
Right.
would just sit idle until that time comes across. And if we don't know where we're going to move it to, there's no sense in putting a vote to it.
I'll amend my motion to say we will freeze the money until the board unfreezes it.
Can I just say something real quick? I know with Patrick's contract, there are things
Hang on,
that,
we're in the middle of a motion.
1 second, there'll be
but
comments.
In the middle of a motion.
it's going to impact.
I know, 1 second. Who's the second?
I will support that motion.
Okay, comments or question?
There you go.
I believe that there's vacation or PTO time or whatever that he's entitled to getting paid out. I don't want
So
something to be.
obviously, it would be after he's paid out, whatever's left after he's
Well,
paid
it
out.
just wasn't clear. I just didn't want it
Right.
to be frozen
Um,
and then.
I
we
thought
have
that'd be
an issue
obvious.
there.
Okay, that'd be obvious.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, no other questions or comments? Roll call.
Olson,
Yes,
Tatowski,
I think it's a fair compromise, yes.
Cop,
Yes.
Olad,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
Pravidi,
No.
and I am a no.
Okay, motion passes 5-2. Next item is HydroCorp Cross Connection Program.
Hey, I got an idea. I got a question. What the heck is this stuff?
I forgot the question.
You want me to repeat the question?
HydroCorp.
Okay. I don't understand. I want just a high-level overview of whatever this is that we're looking at. I see things about vacuum breakers and replacing things, and I don't know if this is commercial, industrial, residential.
There's
What
two-
exactly is this? What are
There's
we looking at?
two contracts there. They're both 2 years. One's for residential, one's for commercial. It gives you a list of how many that hydro goes out and sees. I think it's 75 for residential, and I'm not going to,
125.
100 and something for,
Yeah,
for the commercial.
okay.
So the vacuum breakers, every house that has a sprinkling system here will eventually be checked.
Okay, and the township is paying for this service then?
You
For the
sure-
residents?
Yeah, it's a state law, you got to have it.
Okay.
So
And if memory serves me, Rich, we did this last year and the year before. We did this last year.
It's 2 years, it was a 2-year contract. They've
Was
been
it 2
working the
years
last
ago?
month or so.
Because I remember talking about this
Yeah.
and hearing all of this right here with the vacuum breakers and
Right.
everything else. So 2-year contract.
Residential is the sticking point, but we have to move on with it according to Eagle. So that's what we're doing. So we'll be at your house, Stan. So,
Do you knock?
So unlike commercial that have the actual backflow meters, you are actually looking for the little things on the spigots outside. Is that what they're going to be
You
looking
look at all that stuff. Usually when they do an inspection, and I don't know if they're doing it this year because of the way prices got, they used to just go by somebody's, say your house, and you're missing
Quit
one.
picking on me.
They used to put it on for you because it's not such a big
Break
deal.
off the screw and.
Right, the
Yeah.
hose bib vacuum
Right.
breaker. But, you know, the way brass
But
costs
they're
now.
not going to be putting in a backflow meters in residential like commercial has, that has to be inspected all the time as well.
No.
Okay.
Anything for irrigation is the same, though.
I don't know what that is on my side.
not gonna
I got a
let you
little
know.
dome thing over there.
Yeah. That freezes up in the winter.
Yeah,
I got one of them.
I don't know
too.
what that does.
Okay.
So I think the one for the residential went up a little bit, and the one for the commercial went down a little bit, just so you know.
So does this take any of the workload off of you?
You know, it's Heather's my key person for this. She's got some classes with it. Eventually, when you start looking at the numbers, how much it costs, then you start getting towards being a Shelby Township or a Clinton Township where you hire somebody to do
That's all they
maybe
do.
2 jobs.
Yeah, okay,
So you're getting there.
okay.
All right, based on this right here, I'll make a motion to approve HydroCorp for the 135 initial inspections for the industrial, commercial, and institutional facilities and miscellaneous water users within the township served by the public water supply for cross connections. In the annual amount of $17,148 for a total contract amount of $34,296. Gentlemen, would you like me to take, I'm sorry, board, would you like me to take this, both of these at one time or separately?
I think both is fine.
Both at one time.
We got to do it
Okay, and I'll
anyway.
make a motion also for HydroCorp with the residential for an annual amount of $73,008 and a total contract amount of $14,616.
Support.
Okay, motion by Dukowski, seconded by Kopp. Any questions or comments from audience or other board members? Roll call?
Tatowski,
Yes.
Kopp,
Yes.
Praviti,
Yes.
Nicely,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Babinski is a yes, Polad.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, I think now we'll go back to 9.3, the First Amendment to Agreement for operation of Community Media Center.
Hi, Phyllis, hi, Matt.
Thank you very much for your consideration in moving us around on the agenda. I greatly appreciate it. Bruce Township has decided not to award the contract to anybody at this point. They're going to attempt to film it themselves for a couple months and see if it works. So, all of the bids are sort of being held in abeyance.
Frozen?
Until they decide whether it's going to work that way or not.
Are they going to go then out to bid again, since they rejected basically everyone at this point?
That's unclear.
Are they using someone's
they-
cell phone? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. They talked about reviewing the original RFP and changing some language. So at that point, yes, they'd have to go out for rebid.
Sorry, I'm just curious, was there a vote or no, or
Yeah,
was it unanimous? I'm sorry, I'm just being nosy. I'm just curious.
no, it was not 4-1?
Yeah, it was 4-1.
4-1.
Oh, no, I was just curious.
Yeah. So, I guess the amendment is sort of moot at this point. However, I would like to know if they do go out for bid again, and we would obviously bid again, if this language is acceptable to you folks, so that we don't have to start all over. And if you could approve it and hold it in abeyance
Well, I think,
for a couple of months or something.
yeah, and Sam and I were just saying, fixing it has to happen because it necessarily isn't to the neighbor to the north, Bruce Township.
Right.
It could be
somebody else.
somewhere else, and we'll be in the same position.
Right. So, you know the number we came up with in our proposal for that particular contract. But again, based on if they do go out for bid and they change what they want, our numbers will change. And so that part of the language may have to be looked at again later. But at least if we can agree in principle to the format of the agreement, so that in the future I can proceed, assuming that we can get this amendment passed at that time.
But could we amend it that depending on the contract, we could change the dollar amount, or how would that work?
Which dollar amount? The one in,
Like what they're suggesting, if they should go out to bid again and they come up with a different number?
there's no number in the agreement I drafted. It was
No.
blank.
They have, I sent out
Well, they emailed us.
later email.
I'm not
sorry,
privy to
I'm
that.
sorry.
I don't know what that number is.
Okay, sorry.
Of course.
I thought I
Until-
sent you a copy, I'm sorry.
So I guess, could there be language added to that to say, to amend to whatever new contract is being presented?
Yeah, yes, the way this agreement, I could have not used the term Bruce Township in this agreement.
Right.
But, the way this came about was, Michigan Community Media came to you and said, we would like to be able to provide a service to another community. It just so happened to be Bruce, but it could have been anybody else. And section 4.14, I think it was, of the original operating agreement was less than crystal clear as to whether or not they had a right to do that or not. And that language clearly had to be redrafted. They also indicated that the other community that had asked them to submit an RFP did not want to enter into an agreement with Washington. With those limitations, I had some phone calls back and forth with Mike and Sam and Stan, and also with Ms. Zimmerman and Matt December, because I needed some input. So the format that I used was to amend the operating agreement as it currently stands, to indicate that the existing agreement that you have with Michigan Community Media would be extended out through the balance of the two-year options, because the deal that they were going to make with Bruce, if it came to fruition, was they were going to have to provide a service for 3 years. The box that they were in was that under your agreement, they were only locked in until the end of '23. They had 2 potential extensions. So if you're community media, you can't ink a 3-year agreement with another community knowing that you only have 1 more year with us, and this board may, at the end of '23, decide you want to go in a different direction. So that's a box they couldn't get out of. And the only way I could figure to get out of that box is to propose to this board that you extend the current operating agreement with them out through the end. That would solve that. If that's not a deal killer, then what I did after that was indicated that this board would allow them to use your equipment for a fixed price, and that we would attach to this agreement a list of all the equipment that they would be using, that list could be changed periodically based on the addition of new equipment, taking out old equipment, and so forth, and that they could not, under any circumstances, use our equipment without the written consent of this board. Furthermore, I listed some of the activities that they would be providing for this other municipality so that this board had an idea what they were doing. I also added a provision which said, to the extent that there was a conflict on a particular event, where an event for this other community in Washington coincided, and it was a conflict they couldn't resolve, that we had priority. On the simple basis that it's our equipment. And we are the contract, we're the party that they contract with to use our equipment. And as a condition of this, they're going to do our events first. If there's a conflict, they're going to do our events, and that's going to be a stipulation. And with that, it was a pretty simple amendment. And I think it did what they needed done, and it gives Washington Township complete oversight to make sure that the programming and the services they're providing to you are in no way jeopardized by this other vendor. If it doesn't turn out to be Bruce, this agreement can easily be modified to simply eliminate any reference to Bruce, still amend that section 4.14 for the future, and if they have some other municipality that they're able to successfully bid on, simply replace the municipal Bruce for somebody else, put in I don't know the method of compensation. I'd put it in just as a fixed fee. If there's another way to do it, that's up to you to decide it. I like to think simple. And money's money, and if you know you're going to get X amount annually, that's it. But if there's a better way to do it, you tell me and I'll write it into the agreement. And so that's what it does. It extends it. It gives you total control over the use of our assets, gives them the ability to go out and bid somebody else. Nobody gets hurt. You got idle assets you're not using anyway. It's that old win-win. So that's what we did. It can easily be modified.
But what else it does, it also gives my community media now a chance to go out and solicit customers, of which the board historically have been saying, hey, go out and solicit some business in that. So now that gives them a chance to do that. And I think that's a very good move forward.
So I think we have to change some of the language because it identifies Bruce Township specifically. Do we say new client, new?
Well, I would take it out, and it didn't matter that it was Bruce. It could have been
Right.
anybody. It wouldn't even have to be a
Just
municipal.
underline
It wouldn't even,
customer.
yeah, I
Yes.
mean, I would simply say if they want to go out and bid any other municipality, wherever they're located, it doesn't make any difference. We just need to bless it because they're using our equipment. And I also put in an indemnification provision. I mean, you'd think, what's the possible downside? They're using our equipment. How could anybody get hurt? On the other hand, you got a lot of wires, you got a lot of equipment, you got a lot of lights. And if something can go wrong, of course, in my business, it always does. And to put in the indemnification and the insurance provision, if they're using our equipment on somebody else's and somebody gets hurt, we're covered financially through an insurance policy and indemnification. Put that language in. I can easily modify this to make it generic so that whether it's Bruce or anybody else, we can make it work. But if they're looking for conceptual approval, if you're good with the concept, then I can go ahead and make these generic changes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the agreement for the operation of Community Media Center between Charter Township of Washington and Michigan Community Media with the updates as suggested by council to be brought back to the next meeting for ratification.
I'll support.
If I could make a recommendation to that too, under the item number 4 where it says compensation, you have a fixed amount. You guys, would you be open to a percentage amount as opposed to always coming back and having to hire a lawyer to rewrite this thing and fill in the blanks?
Yeah, that was our first thought, but someone else suggested, I don't know if it was Mr. Siebert or on the board, somebody else suggested it should be a hard dollar. So that's why we did that. I'm fine with I'm fine with the percentage.
Yeah, but this hard dollar would work if that $60,000 number was what, I mean, you may go to another community, they may ask for a lot more services.
Right.
And now your price is, I don't know,
Yeah,
$110,000,
the percentage may change.
$180,000. So
Absolutely.
the numbers change.
Yeah, the percentage may have to change depending on what we're
Sure.
doing.
Because right now, with what you have proposed here, it's 10%,
Right.
which,
Plus the assets coming back to Washington, should the contract be, any assets purchased with our portion of the Bruce contract money would come back to Washington should that contract be canceled at some point. So it's not just the 6,000, it's another value
it's,
of the
yeah,
assets.
because you have money set aside, I believe it was,
I think we estimated, what, 6 to 10,000?
5 to 10,000.
Yeah, between 5 and 10,000.
Right, yeah.
We estimated, so,
So
you
we're getting a
know,
lot more than 10% because we're going to get
the value of those assets.
the value, but depreciated, because if the thing
course.
becomes 10 years old, I mean, the value
course.
you have in a 10-year-old camera.
Right.
So we all know that, right, Matt?
How well we know, yes.
So that's my motion.
Before you second that, again, I'm not privy to the letter, but I'm not clear now on the method of compensation that you want me to put in here.
Well, the compensation would have to be,
Almost like on a
Negotiated.
sliding scale, depending on what services are going to be needed from them, from the other community.
Well, then we have to leave it blank.
Yeah.
Then we've got to keep it exactly the way it
Somehow saying
is.
that it has to come back to the board for
Exactly.
that approval.
Well, of course, all I'm going to bring back is an agreement, and I'm still going to leave the compensation blank.
Right.
right.
And that if they come to you in 3 months and say, we got Bruce, or we didn't get Bruce, but we got somebody else,
Right.
they're then going to come to you to get board approval to sign this, and that blank is going to get filled in. by
That
you.
blank will get filled in.
So I'm not going to mess with
Like
the
a, it's
compensation.
like a rental agreement, right?
We're
Exactly.
going to leave it the way
At
it
that
is.
point, that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that'll work.
That would work? Okay.
Okay.
Somebody second that
Where
already?
are we at right now?
Stand. Okay, so motion by Dukowski, second by Babinski.
That's right.
Any questions or comments? Oh, so, sorry, the motions, we'll bring it back next meeting, final verbiage. Okay, roll call.
Tatowski,
Yes.
Babinski, yes. Jesus. Babinski, speak up. Where is he?
Babinski.
Sleeping again.
I'm already thinking of the next person I'm calling. Olson,
Yes.
Praviti,
Yes,
Nicely,
Yes.
Olad,
Yes.
and Cop.
Yes.
motion passed.
And just,
Thank you all
and just
very
as a-
much, and again, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for the schedule change. I appreciate
Sorry this one didn't work out, but you know what?
it.
You
It
guys
still
will
might.
get
And we
the next-
don't know yet.
It still
I mean,
might.
Right,
it's
right.
all kind
It
of
hasn't worked out yet, but
Right,
still on there, but now you have an opportunity. Go get them.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
And
Thank
just
you,
as a
fellas.
follow-up, on the section that deals with scope of services, that's going to also be lifted out, because the scope of services was directed towards Bruce.
Right.
So if we don't know who that vendor is,
Yeah,
that's
so
going to
any
be,
reference towards Bruce.
I'm going to delete all of those
You
services.
remove all
Those are going to
that
be to be
reference.
determined at another
Make
date.
it more generic.
So I'll amend my motion.
No, you don't have to. I just need some direction, so I only need to do it
Okay.
once.
When he brings it
I'm
back,
good.
Joe.
I'm good.
Right.
Spit it back to him, tell him to do it again.
All right.
Okay.
I think we're elected officials.
Yeah, next item's elected officials update. Trying to think.
I know.
Felt like we covered a lot. I don't know if you wanted to talk about elections or,
We've got one coming up.
make sure you vote, what is it, May?
Yep, we have about half the ballots back in, a little over 4,000 sent out, so a little over 2,000 sent back already, so a little bit slower than it was last time, but we expect some, again, planning.
What are you
is
doing
still
with all your free time?
Nothing. Chasing vehicles to see if we can find some.
We do picnics on the side of the building.
And then we do have, I don't know if that falls under community announcements or elected officials, but we do have on May 14th, the recycling and the electronic recycling and paper shredding, 9 to 12 on the 14th here at Township Hall.
I just have a couple comments real quick. I'd like to thank Patrick again. I had the pleasure of working with his firm in one community, and they did an excellent job. And at Shelby, I was on a master plan committee there, and their participation was much larger. I'm not even sure how many they had, but it had to be close to about 200, that were participating. And every time you ask Pat a question, he always answered your question, but he also expanded it as far as the reasons behind it. So I think that's always been a plus in working with them. And second item, I'd like to thank Heidi, too, for her work during the budget process, and also Eric, because she spent a lot of time. She was effortless and just, giving any information. She gave us detail, and I think without her, the budget process probably would have been much longer.
That's true.
So those are just my comments.
For the, oh, sorry. I was going to say, for the Memorial Committee, we have trees and bricks to sell, and we need some much-needed funds. How many trees have we got left, Gary?
We've got 20 trees left to sell. And we're always selling bricks too, by the way. But,
And how much are the trees?
trees are $500 each, and with the tree, you get a memorial plaque, which goes on, not necessarily on the tree, but in front of the tree, memorializing the person that donates the money for the
We need a
tree.
Rich Amormino tree.
Well, if he has $500, we'll have one for him, yeah, for sure. I think he's already got a brick, but we could put your brick by your tree if you spent $500.
Rich's tree, this way. You
Rich's tree. But there are forms out in the lobby that are attached to the rendering that we have for the memorial. We have a memorial committee meeting tomorrow at 3:30 here in the township, where we'll be discussing the current status of where we are. The consent judgment committee, I think, needs to meet to resolve the consent to the Kirkway development over there in order to transfer the property. So once that gets done, I think we're probably still waiting for the information to come from their legal team. But once that gets done, I think we're ready to break ground. And hopefully, we can have this thing done probably by July, I'm hoping. The granite has already been purchased. So the memorial committee has become responsible for that. We're buying the flags and some miscellaneous other things that are going in there. But right now, we're a little bit short in terms of funding, and we're looking to help offset that loss by selling these trees. We've already got, I think, 2 or 3 of the trees already sold, but now 6 of them. We got 6 sold. We got 20 left to go. And probably 1,800 bricks.
What kind of trees?
Well, actually, I think the swamp oak.
We still have the swamp oak.
The swamp oak is still available. That's
That's
going to
right.
be the signature tree.
It was
in there.
sold, and then
Yeah.
the person changed their mind.
Change your mind. We've
we
got
have
some maple trees.
Is that a
Crimson
different
maples?
price?
Crimson maples.
Are they all the same price or no?
Yeah.
Everything's 500.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So first come,
King
first
crab.
serve on the swamp oak.
And then we have a bunch of pines.
Yeah, bunch of pines and, of course, bricks, 4 by 8, 8 by 8, and 12 by 12, depending on the number of characters that you want to put on them. So we've got a plan, and we're sticking to it, and hopefully we're going to get this thing done and get it up and running, hopefully in July sometime this year. So any support you can give us, we appreciate.
If the trees die and they don't take, will the memorial committee replace those? Or is that the owner's responsibility who made that tree donation?
I think there's a 1-year guarantee on any of the plantings, so the landscape company would become responsible for that. After that, it's probably would become our responsibility. Yeah, I think that hopefully if it survives a year, we're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they
And,
should have a
What
year.
time was that paper shredding and recycling?
9 to 12.
9 to 12, okay. Got it.
It'll be sunny and warm,
Promise?
I promise.
Wear your Washington Township hat, guys.
And then, what is it, probably the next meeting or two, we're bringing the garbage contract?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
That'll be coming up.
Yep. Bob and I will be discussing that either tomorrow or tomorrow and Friday. Make sure we have everything that we need.
Bob's been ready. No, I know, I'm joking.
Yep. If you do have any other comments, I sent an email out, I don't know, a month or so ago. If you do have anything else, please let
That
us know.
hasn't changed, that email?
No one
The verbiage
has said
is the same?
anything
Okay.
since then, so Bob had updated once Mr. Pollard had sent some stuff out, but I don't think there's been anyone else commenting that I saw.
Right.
So again, once I get it from Bob, I'll send it out again
Okay.
for everyone to look at, see, make sure that you don't have any questions, but it will be one in which we have the à la carte system out there.
Very good.
You have any
Motion to
volunteers yet?
adjourn.
For the,
Recycling?
we don't have any volunteers
I'll
yet, 'cause that
volunteer.
was the first time we announced it, so.
I'll volunteer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
where else would we be on a Saturday, on a nice sunny
On a nice
morning,
sunny
right?
day, yeah.
Gary?
I'm in.
Mike?
So
Mike?
I'll be there.
Mike, you
gang's
gonna
all
join
here.
us this time?
The gang's all here.
Jen's on baseball. I'm all on baseball right now.
That'd be nice to see you at one of them.
To help further expand payments for the online, we're now taking American Express as of May 1st. So if you are paying by MasterCard or Visa, or discover we're now accepting American Express online payments and here at the Township effective after May 1st for any type of payments that you want to try to make. And then a week ago, Tuesday, was our Parks and Rec Easter egg hunt. It was a great success. I couldn't tell you how many people were there, but I know over 10,000 eggs were purchased to make it successful for the kids that were there. There are a couple people in the audience here who made it very successful and made it work, so thank you to them. And all the residents that came out, they were very polite, appreciative, enjoyed the event. And unfortunately, the hot air balloon could not go up in the air because of the wind to drop the eggs, but the kids got a lot of excitement out of just seeing the flames coming out of the hot air balloon itself. So it went very well, so thank you very much for those who helped out.
No correspondence?
No correspondence, correct.
Community announcements. I know Friday, June 3rd will be Washington Township Day at Jimmy John Fields again. If you go on our website, there'll be a link. You can buy tickets at a discounted rate if you'd like to attend that night, and then they have fireworks at the end of the night.
What day was that, Sam?
Friday, June 3rd.
Are you
I think
throwing
it's
the
at
ball?
7:05. Yeah, but I thought it was more special. There's like 30 people throwing a ball, so I'm just one of 30.
I never did get to see
It's
any
not
of your.
that, it's not that
Have you made it across the
momentous.
plate?
No.
Wait, was that walking or throwing the ball?
Bowl it?
I'd rather be bowling, but yeah. But I mean, last year was kind of a disaster. It was that June 25th, a day in infamy in Washington. That was the day it rained really. So we got rained out, and then we did it again in August. So hopefully this year there's no rain that day. No rain for Rich. And June 5th is the Super Sunday. The Octagon House will be having events between 10 and 4, and the Historical Society will be having different craft shows, both between 10 and 4. So we'd like to help support them and try to get that going. And then June 16th, the Historical Society is trying to raise funds to redo their roof. It's in really bad repair. So June 16th, I'm going to be helping them. We're going to do a golf outing that day here at Greystone on 32. So we're finalizing the flyer with them, and we'll be spreading that out, and hopefully people can help out the Historical Society to raise funds for their roof.
Do you have any idea what the costs are on there?
I mean, originally they said 40,000, but
That little place?
Yeah,
Well, I
it
think
seems
they're
a
trying to
lot.
give them architecturally correct style.
to more correct, yeah.
Not just put a shingle up.
But I mean, hopefully this will give them a shot on the arm to at least get some bids and
Yeah,
stuff.
If you can just,
Yeah, yeah.
Again,
No, if you
Paramount,
can-
just coordinate, yeah, I'll help
Yeah,
coordinate
and
with, but
I told them to maybe Paramount
they,
could
they,
meet with them.
they were interested when we were doing that and wanted to know where they could help if possible, so.
But it's actually a really neat building. It's kind of a neat architectural time. It's from the early 1900s. It's different. And
It is, with all the multi-levels and.
yeah, I mean, they told me an interesting story that a student back in the day actually rode the horse up the stairway in there.
Really?
So I mean, hearing it now sounds weird. Maybe back then might have been, I don't know, maybe a normal thing. And I'm trying to think, anything at the Lions Club or?
No, they have not
No,
had
no.
anything with there being bags and beers come back yet, so.
I know the Samaritan House has their golf outing. I think it's the last Friday in July. I think it's July 29th. That's at Greystone, too. So get your golf bags out. There's a lot of golf outings this year. Anyway, I have nothing else.
Then I'll make a motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.